It is your prisonplanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here in this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. It is Friday, the 9th day of November, 2012. I am your host, Alex Jones, and we are going to be here for the next 3 hours today. We have several special reports that are going to premiere here on the radio in the third hour today, including the proof that, yes, the UN treaty does restrict your Second Amendment, and proof that Obama is coming after your guns. It's on. They're moving on every front. They're going to shut down the industry. They're going to raise the taxes. They're going to put in the carbon taxes. All of it designed. You see all these businesses finally shutting down now that Obama's been reelected. Tens of thousands being laid off just in the first day. It's because a lot of companies operate on such small profit margins that they cannot compete with the government health care system, also increasing the price of health care. They can barely hang on against China, against India, against Mexico, who don't have any health care, any workers' comp, make you work 18 hours a day, suicide nets at the Apple factories. And so it's like, okay, we're shutting down. We're closing our doors. We're gone. We're not going to hire anybody. Or we're going to lay off, half our workforce. Or all the big corporations are saying, you know what, you get 20 hours a week now instead of 40, so you don't get your insurance. And so that's great. That's the plan. Now you'll go from $25 million on food stamps when Obama got in to right at $50 million. It'll go to $100 million. And even more will shut down until we have the gas shortages, the food shortages. This is a plan. They did this in China. They did this in Russia. They did this in Cuba. They did this everywhere. They've been doing it in Venezuela. And this is it. Until those of us that even know how to work are in forced labor camps producing for the welfare queens, walking around with their submachine guns, beating us over the head with shovels. Now, it'll never get to that point. It got to that point in North Korea, got to that point to a great extent in Cuba, got to that point in the Soviet Union, got that point in China. China got smart and made a deal with the globalists who'd put them in place to begin with in 49 to be just a slave system, more of a fascist system, calling itself communist. But allowing some free enterprise. But they're not going to do that. They're going to strangle the goose with the golden eggs because they hate America so much. And it's about total domination. And so there will be plenty of cream in the globalist bunkers, the armored redoubts, and the new status will be black uniforms. Won't matter if you live in a little hovel and don't get a lot of food either. At least you're going to get to strut around into the new austerity and check some papers and break some jaws, all right, and run some checkpoints and see the once great citizens pull up to them and be scared. This is the pure baptism in enslavement because we think abortion's good. I mean, I was thinking about it this morning, and it really hit me that I need to codify an entire 10-minute special report on this and not just get on the air and talk about it and really break down an epiphany I had about abortion. I knew this about abortion, but it really hit me in like a 5-10 minute epiphany where I just stood there with my hand on the counter after my wife and children had left before I came into the office. They were gone on some errands. I just sat there, and it all made perfect sense. Because if you'll say those aren't humans and that that's not a life and you've got that choice and all the excuses, once you have the abortion, you're now committed to that idea, and you'll commit to any other rationalization. A lot of people have been involved in abortions, and as long as you realize it was wrong what you did and understand the fraud of it, you're cleansed. It's a great weight off your shoulders. I know. But I'll tell you, those of you out there, it is your religion. When I said women who have all these abortions and love abortion and are proud of it and brag about it, Their wombs are temples to human sacrifice. They are the ultimate Satanists. They have murdered their children. We'll be right back with Ron Paul. It is Friday, the 9th day of November, 2012. I am your host, Alex Jones. Ron Paul, soon to be former Congressman Ron Paul, is set to join us in about 30 minutes here on the air. And obviously, he was quoted by the Washington Times and others when he was on Bloomberg television as saying America already went over the cliff and we're far gone, and that we have converted to socialism and will collapse. And that is the plan. Yes, they're going to collapse us into total tyranny, and the domesticated masses will not know any better. And they will demand anyone who has any money, any property, that everything be taken from you until finally you are physically put in forced labor camps. That is what every socialist and communist country ends up collapsing into if the people put up with it. That's where it leads, is the North Korean, Soviet, Communist Chinese, Foxconn, Apple, suicide nets around the building, forced abortions, inside. That's where it leads. That's who these people are. That's what they create. That is what they push in every single case. So Ron Paul, the congressman, will be joining us to break all of that down later in the hour. On top of all of that, they're pushing the fiscal cliff, and this has been done in Europe over and over again. The globalists, the mega banks that brag that they've conquered our country and the rest of the world through fraud and derivatives and manipulation, hold everyone hostage, saying the economy is going to implode unless you give us carbon taxes, increased carbon taxes, VAT taxes, higher income taxes, and they call it austerity. And then the prostitute media plays along with it and never points out that almost all the debt is really from bailing out the mega banks themselves. So that is some of the information that we're going to be covering on that front as well today. And again, Cole's election loss could mean gain for carbon tax. Bloomberg. The Hill. Carbon tax could be in Obama's toolbox. Bloomberg. Obama may levy carbon tax to cut U.S. deficit. HSBC says. That's where this is going. On top of a VAT, Obama's set to give a speech today, and you know he's going to talk about how we're in trouble, why the economy just imploded the day after I got elected. Again, the same mega banks that financed to get him back into office and financed Romney just to make doubly sure they maintain control, either way their guy got in, they dropped the hammer after the election because they'd been somewhat propping it up, because now they're going to the next phase of austerity. And when they raise taxes, just like they've done in California or like they've done in other countries, like Greece and other places, it actually lowers revenue and kills business. That's the plan. You don't want people uppity with their own businesses running around with money in the bank. You want them with the hands out. That's why Chris Matthews has said it. Michael Moore has said it, how great the storm is, because it makes you dependent and it teaches you to be dependent. Of course, we see 11 days without power. Sandy victims want answers. We have other reports. Power outages continue to plague New Jersey, New York, you name it. 30-hour wait for fuel offers plenty of intrigue, but no gas. New York Daily News. Gas rationing, New Yorkers welcomed to the third world. Ready to snap. In Cedar Grove, residents are at 10th and 11th day, no power. And what they're really freaking out about is the liquor deliveries aren't happening. The alcohol has run out. There's more looting, more crime going on, but the media is keeping it quiet. Bitter cold inside disaster shelter. Even the government shelters in places like Marlboro don't have power. That's the type of information that we have here. All right. Now, there's your government. 11 days won't help you. But we're bad if we say that you should get prepared. We're bad if we say you should have a year of food, you should have firearms, you should know how to fix basic stuff in your house or car, you should know how to run a trot line, you should know how to clean a firearm, you should know how to stomp somebody's butt into the ground if they assault you. But the new religion in America, there's three groups of people, really. There's globalist, technocratic, crime syndicates that know the street, know how the world works, and decided to fleece the sheep. You've got good, hard-working people that try to work within the system that's fraudulent, who are being attacked and destroyed. And then you have the giant mass of dumbed-down Kim Kardashian, fans who don't even know what day of the week it is, literally, who are in helpless zombie-like states, and all they know how to do is beg and plead and demand that somebody else's stuff is theirs. They are going to literally, societally, culturally eat us alive. This has happened everywhere. It's not like we're just theorizing. This is guaranteed. It's like you got gangrene on your leg and your toes are turning black and smelling. They're going to have to cut those toes off. And if they don't, you're going to lose the whole leg and then your whole body. You're going to die. Well, we have gangrene, flesh-eating bacteria all over us politically, okay? We're stumbling around. Snot's coming out of our nose. Our eyes are bloodshot. We've got 110 fever. This country is on death's doorstep, which is the plan. Going from liberty and 4% of the world's population having half the wealth because we weren't perfect, we had more freedom, and so it was a cornucopia. It was an engine of wealth. And we became spoiled brats, and people learned to sit around or get government jobs and, festoon themselves and convince themselves that they make the earth, turn and the grass grow and the birds sing. And, look, I've been saying it. We're far gone. We're over the cliff. It's all designed. Ron Paul's now saying that. In fact, guys, will you print me that stack of Ron Paul articles? Oh, no, actually, here they are. Good, I found them. And I know you gave them to me. I couldn't find them. Ron Paul, election shows U.S. far gone. Washington Times, The Hill. Ron Paul, we're already over the fiscal cliff. Yeah, by design. Ron Paul, America already over the cliff. Wall Street Journal goes on with it. Okay, he's going to come on. We've got questions for him. The point is that this is an engineered situation. Now I spent 3 days making sure of this, and I went and checked at blackboxvoting.org, her numbers. In the past, Bev Harris was pretty much a Democrat. She calls herself an independent because she realizes they're all a mafia. She helped expose Republican theft of elections. So we're not saying Mitt Romney's good. We had Obama supporters calling yesterday. You heard me open the phones for them. We're going to do it again today, later after Ron Paul leaves us. And I would say, now listen, my guy didn't lose. Mitt Romney's a globalist, but the referendum, if you believe this election, certifying that people say, yeah, you didn't build that, I want an Obama phone, and the government needs to give us a little something. We went out and interviewed Obama supporters at the Driscoll, at the Democratic Party of Texas celebration here in the capital city of Texas, Austin, and that's what they were all saying. Yeah, we need to help people. We need to give people money, give them free health care, give them free education. There's no such thing as free. When you start giving it out free, it starts debasing everything. Democrats polled want quantitative easing. They want money printing. They just don't get it, folks. They really are in this weird starstruck fantasy. Does that mean Republicans are good? No, they like torture, secret arrest, lying, wars. They've bought into their own brand of evil. The point is, if they would have kicked Obama out, that would have been, hey, incumbents, look out. Hey, people are mad. The fact that things are so bad, Obama's been caught lying so much, NDAA, torture, secret arrest, hiring nothing but lobbyists, signing statements, all the insider deals, shutting down the coal plant, shipping General Motors to China, Solyndra, just makes Bill Clinton look like a saint. It's not that Bill Clinton's a saint. He's actually running this administration. It's a Clinton operation, folks. It's on record. It's that things are so far gone now, they get away with anything. Justice Department running fast and furious. The list goes on and on. And meanwhile, they're buying 1.6 billion bullets. They're digging in. They're fortifying police stations. They're training them that gun owners and libertarians are the enemy, that those that don't like world government are the enemy. Those of us that understand the takeover, those of us that don't want this to happen, we are now listed as the enemy, and they're putting the internet kill switch in with cybersecurity, and they're announcing they want the fairness doctrine back to shut us down, and they're doing all sorts of cyber attacks to alternative media. It's on, folks. It's on. Now, here's the good news, and I've studied this, and I can tell you right now, Bev Harris, vote fraud expert, Romney votes not counted in key states, and if you add up all the places where there was clear fraud, that they admit none of the votes were counted on Election Day, they would just announce it, and the trends were Romney really won those states, Mitt Romney really won. Now, that's not a good thing, but it's not the worst scenario because it just shows people at least hitting the reset button, you know, going, you know what, we don't like what Bush did, we're putting Obama in. We don't like what Obama did, we're putting Romney in. At least it shows some primitive inkling of understanding how much trouble we're in. And there's video of Bev Harris breaking it down 2 days ago. But we went and collated it all, you know, did our own vetting. It's accurate. It's a very important article. Because here's the deal, folks. You don't really believe that most polls showed 2/3 of people wanted GMO labeling in California. But then magically 60% or close to 59% voted against it. They're still counting votes. I mean, you don't really believe Californians don't want to have something labeled GMO. Does anyone buy that? Does anyone, when there's admitted election fraud everywhere, and now they call states, you know, when they haven't even counted the day's ballots, they're not even in. I mean, does anyone believe this? Look, here's the deal. The system's totally discredited now. They're going to say the voting machines at state level say ban guns. They're going to say that, oh, all the new property tax increases passed. Wow, who would have thought it? Oh, my gosh. You know, and a few times they'll let you have a few state referendums to make it look like you're having some victories. I'm telling you, folks, this is a scientific takeover where they grab power, see if we buy it. Okay, they bought it, move forward. You have to either discredit the whole system, disengage, fight against it every way you can, or we're going into a cross between the Soviet Union, Communist China, Nazi Germany, and Caesar's Rome. I mean, this is it. We're in trouble, and if you don't have goosebumps, you ain't got a heartbeat. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So, stocks are falling. People are laying off their employees all over the place. Because, you see, we're in a global system designed by the mega banks, and it's designed to shut down the once wealthy economies and convert them over to tyranny. And the globalists brag about this. They write about this, but that's in their economic treatises. The general public just likes to buy into whatever the mainstream media is telling them, and they're telling them the government wants you to do great and wants to help the little guys. And as more people get poor, they think, well, the answer must be government because they say they want to make me rich. And then government gets bigger, more people get poor, and they go, well, we better have a bigger government. That's what makes poor people rich. And bigger government, more poor people, until we convert from the richest country in the world to a globalist New World Order military colony where they just get conscripts. And they're coming out with the drone ships, the drone aircraft, the drone submarines, the drone soldiers. That one won't even be needed soon. You see, the future doesn't need us. Human life's always been cheap, but now because of robotics and automation, we're not even needed, according to the globalist. And so they're just shutting down the once free society so they can convert us into pure authoritarianism ahead of forced population reduction. That is just some of what's going on. And we did a national poll that I mentioned yesterday on air, but this got published by the time we went off air at 2 p.m. Central yesterday. Poll, nearly 1/3 of Americans should accept T.S.A. body cavity search in order to fly. That was a Harris scientific poll of 2,000 plus adults that we commissioned. And you can read the full poll at Infowars.com. And some newspapers picked this up, but you would imagine that'd be a big national story. But some people are commenting, no, I think they should check us. There could be a bomb. Well, why not cut you open? There could be something in your stomach. I mean, why not just not let you leave your house? How about you just live in a little confined Agenda 21 ghetto just for your security, of course. That's what Hitler said, go to these ghettos that have barbed wire around them for your security. I mean, that's where this is all going. But if you advertise it as the latest, greatest thing and have Madonna promote it, well, it must be great. And the poll asked 6 questions. One of the others was, would you wear an electric shock or taser bracelet? Poll, 35% of Americans would wear electric shock bracelet in order to fly. And Homeland Security actually has taken bids and had meetings about making everyone wear it. Shocking survey results show how much freedom Americans are willing to sacrifice. Of course, they don't care if you don't like it. They'll just try to implement it. And they already put you in a radiation bath to get your authorization for the safety of everybody, of course. The government needs to have that happen. And they grope you, of course, for your safety. So that's what's happening in the once land of the free, home of the brave because of Al-Qaeda that the government publicly runs in Libya and Syria and always ran and always will run. out of Saudi Arabia. But it's just so much fun to be Islamophobic, even though the globalists run the radicals and put them in power, that it's like, so what? Just get rid of my future, get rid of my kids' future, take all my rights. Hey, but the government manuals that police and military sent us, and FBI and federal marshals sent us over the years that broke over and over again national news, it says it's not about al-Qaeda, that it's gun owners, returning veterans, and farmers and people, anybody that is self-sufficient. Wow, just like how all authoritarians go after those people. This is a repeat of history. Right here, Lenin, Mao, this is important. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, we do need to watch those evil right-wingers. I mean, they don't want us to get our Obama phone. I mean, what did Janet Reno say on 60 Minutes back in the mid-'90s? She said the biggest cult in America, the most dangerous people, are, quote, evangelical Christians who believe in the second coming of Christ. Why, you believe in the second coming of Christ? And that's what they teach in those manuals. And you know what? If you're a cop and you go to those intelligence training deals and you don't agree with that, they take note and you're out of there. You're back on patrol. We're going to bust you down from, sergeant back to on the street, pal. How about you lose $20,000 a year in your paycheck? Oh, you don't like shaking people down and writing them tickets all day? How about you get put back out there, where you started 10 years ago? Oh, you don't like that? How about you just get out of here? And a lot of them do get, it's like, good. We got people that are willing to do whatever they're told. You just get off the force. And so the conversion towards pure evil accelerates. And I want to beg all of you out there to realize that a lot of us have disengaged from the system because we know we don't have a choice within the system with people like Mitt Romney. But it is a mandate. It is a vote against liberty that people voted for Obama. Not that either guy would have done really something different. It's just that Obama openly says you didn't build that. Openly that we're collectivist. Openly that banning all guns is good in the past. And now he's coming after the guns. Now they're coming out with the legislation. They physically want them. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Ron Paul coming up. Okay, he is joining us from the road via cell phone, so if he cuts out, he'll call us right back. Congressman Ron Paul, he's been a busy man out there speaking to millions of young people around the country, and we're doing a great job exposing collectivism and the path this country's going on. And on this Friday edition, a few days after the election, we have a couple of minutes here, or 30 minutes or so, with Congressman Ron Paul. Congressman, I don't know how you do it, holding up under something that a young man couldn't do, but great job getting the message of liberty out during the campaign.
Well, it's been a lot of fun and tedious, and of course at times frustrating. But what really gets me going or keeps me going is what everybody knows is that I have identified with a lot of young people, as you have, going to the campuses, and that's why I've never dwelled on D.C. D.C. is important, but D.C. is a reflection of what the next generation is going to be thinking about and realizing. So that's where I'm optimistic. Washington's as big as best as ever. But there's reason to believe that all the freedom organizations, your radio show, we're all making some progress and more in the last 5 years than we did probably in the previous 20 years.
Absolutely. Look, Bev Harris, who is, as you know, one of the top voting fraud experts in the country, she's nonpartisan. She says a lot of Romney votes didn't get counted. They called states long before they should have. That article's up at Infowars.com. I know it looks like you're a spoiled sport if you talk about election fraud, but it's been certified and proven over and over again. I don't so much see it as a mandate for collectivism that Obama got reelected. I see it as a mandate that people have been dumbed down and that Romney wasn't really somebody who was really speaking out against Obama. But when you make the statement, Congressman, that the U.S. election shows we're far gone, can you elaborate on that?
Well, yes, and the subject comes up because the big talk now is the fiscal cliff. And in many ways, I work on the assumption that we've sort of gone off the cliff. Nobody realizes because we haven't hit the bottom. We don't know what the ramifications are. But in the election, what I was thinking about at that time was that one of the things that Obama was able to do was play on fear of those people, in the Rust Belt, who are used to artificially high wages and jobs and bailouts, and he played on that. So in many ways it was those individuals in Ohio and Michigan and Wisconsin are saying, hey, you protect me, take care of me, make sure my checks are coming. And I said it's not a whole lot different than the way they line up on the streets in Greece. Don't cut anything, and the people who are on the dole won it. So in that way, that side of the argument won. But I'm not as down on what happened in the election, because 12 million decided not to bother, which isn't all that bad, because they decided, they looked at Romney and they looked at Obama, says it's not worth the effort, and they know this whole system is rigged against us if we try a third party, so they just said, the heck with it. And but I think those are our supporters. I mean, I think those are people who probably listen to you and pay attention to me, but they know that the current system isn't working. But I think we're the majority. There's no doubt in my mind, if you take the people who have dropped out a while ago or dropping out now and not enthusiastic, wouldn't vote for either of them, I think they're listening more to what we're saying.
That was my next question. I saw some of the breakdowns in areas of Florida and other places where there were massively less Republican voters just not voting this time around than voted 4 years ago with McCain and Obama. And I looked at the numbers and the demographics. I think you're alluding to this, so I'd like you to expand on it, Congressman. Congressman Ron Paul joins us if you just tuned in live here on this Friday edition, that it is the Ron Paul libertarian, constitutional, true America group that was snubbed and demonized and attacked and drummed out by the Rockefeller blue blood Republicans that just didn't vote. I mean, I know that I ended up not voting because of that. Richard Reeves, one of my crew members who was one of your delegates, he ended up not doing that. Most Republicans and conservatives and libertarians I talked to just said, hey, let Obama come in and bring in total communism. Let's let everybody really see what this is like. No more of these fake Republicans who are basically exactly the same, Republican in name only, counterfeit conservatives. I mean, what I'm hearing is people are voting by buying 4 or 5 million guns a month, and they're done.
Yeah. No, people are hunkering down, and they realize this. And the big question, the big job we have is when the major crisis hits, the really big one is, there will be a revamping. There's always a restoration of a currency that people can at least trust for a while or are told to trust it, and they have to have restored confidence in a government. And right now, though, the contest is between us who would like very limited federal government and a lot of self-government versus those who want to march onward. Not to see, I don't usually use the word carelessly, but onto a form of just socialism, but it's a form of socialism that's called fascism, and that's why I dread the combination of big government and big corporations. And when you look at that, whether it's medical care or the media or the military, the Goldman Sachs and the banking industry, that's who's been in charge, and they're going to hang on tenaciously. So our challenge is very great, but our numbers are growing by leaps and bounds, and people, because of the crisis, they're looking elsewhere because they know that these economic policy of Keynesians and the inflation of the Fed, they're not confident that they can do it again.
There's a term out there, Obamaism or Obamaism, basically communism, and you just said it as someone who studied history and also finance and economics. They're always saying, oh, we have the choice of fascism or socialism and the extreme of socialism, communism. But Stalin and Hitler had a pact together. They divided Poland in half. Stalin admired Hitler and adopted much of what he did. Mussolini and Hitler were actually national socialists. They socialized things for the general public, but allowed mega robber barons to have a centralized fascist economy. And historically, that's what I've seen, just studying history myself, is you get a socialism or communism on the bottom with powerful exempt elites or empires that are incredibly wealthy, with the general public fighting over scraps. And I mean, this is the type of real definition we need out there, that liberalism we hear about is not liberal at all, like Thomas Jefferson, a real liberal. This is a virulent authoritarianism.
Yeah, and when these changes occur, if National Socialism is defeated, they have no trouble becoming becoming communists. In the communists in Russia, the KGB became sort of corporatists. All of a sudden that was amazing to me that in 5 years that you had these billionaires, and then I found out that it was the KGB that ended up owning most of the big businesses. They did have more of a market economy, and you can't complain about the Soviets falling apart, but really many of the same people stayed in charge. So they're very flexible. They want power and money and control, and what they call it is secondary to that.
Sure, and again, the proper definition of Obamunism, which I hope everybody adopts, is the high-tax, big government, economic growth-killing, centrally planned economic regime favored by Barack Hussein Obama, essentially the same as communism and socialism. And, I mean, if this isn't Obamunism, I don't know what is, Congressman. When you talk about we're already over the cliff, when you talk about, we are basically far gone, that's not negativity. That's historically being accurate in my well-researched view. But can you flesh it out? You talked a few years ago about something big is coming. Break down where we're going, because I've seen numbers even in the Wall Street Journal that our per capita government debt, individual debt, is far above Greece's even. And so how you expect historically, you've predicted so much of this, what you expect to now unfold as we see the economy imploding just days after Obama gets back in?
I was always impressed with talking with the young people on the campuses and telling them how bad I see things. And then the comments afterwards when I would talk to them, they say, you're the only one that gives me hope. And they come across very optimistic. And I think knowing the truth and what to do and offering them something else is a reason for optimism. But my point about us being over the cliff means that I don't work on the assumption that all of a sudden there's going to be an agreement in December or January, and they're going to solve spending and deficit problems and the entitlement. Nah, that's not going to happen. So we're over the cliff in that sense, and we're falling off. We just don't know the entire consequences of this. So I see the consequence being that there will be more and more debt and more inflation. The money will finally come out and start bidding up the prices even more so. And today I wrote a little thing commenting on the Germans wanting to get their gold holdings out of the Fed holdings up in New York. And I said, maybe this is the crack in the seams where they're losing confidence of the supremacy of the dollar as well as the supremacy of our political system. We went through depressions, we went through world wars, and we always came out on top. People said, and even now, I mean, we're still on top in the sense that when they have a crisis day in the markets, people will still buy those stupid government bonds, because they don't know where else to go. But I think this idea that the Germans are saying, hey, do you really have our gold? And what if they find out that the gold isn't there? What if they decide to go along with our concerns and check and say, tell us where our gold is as well? And that, to me, will combine with the recognition that the war that we took upon ourselves, the drone war and the unwarranted continuous bombing and this global war on terrorism is going to be something that we can't handle, because just having a lot of nukes on submarines can't solve those problems. And if we get weakened with our dollar and financially, I think we'll be a paper tiger militarily. And then I see what would happen then is a movement for all the countries that we have belittled and badgered and bombed. They're going to love to come piling on us. And it'll be interesting to see if in the next year or two this whole thing about what Germany's talking about might not be in the opening salvo on an international attack on our dollar.
And, Congressman, as you know, there's a bunch of other countries, a lot of Latin American countries led by Venezuela that are pulling their gold out of England, out of the euro, out of the U.S. as well. And so we really see the battle lines being drawn. We see the Chinese trying to get away from treasuries. And then here at home, we did a National Harris poll for Infowars.com that just came out yesterday, a scientific poll. 35% of Americans would accept the electric shock bracelets that the TSA actually with Homeland Security 2 years ago looked at adopting, where we all wear taser bracelets. That way we're all safe. I'm not joking, folks. And also 30% or nearly a third in the same Harris poll said they would accept a TSA body cavity search. And this is not satire, ladies and gentlemen. Congressman, you yourself have complained of the abuse at their hands. And now we've seen other Congress people complain of it, and it's getting more intense. What is your take on the 1.6 billion bullets now being purchased by Homeland Security? What is your take on the TSA now on the highways, all of this expansion of the police state?
Well, it's all preparation. They say just in case there's an emergency, we have to restore order. Some of them are probably sincere in the sense that we can't control events. They didn't control events. They didn't know when the storm was coming. But if it does occur, you know, they want to, order is what they want. They want order, and therefore it doesn't prove that they have something absolutely planned on paper exactly what they're going to do and when. But they also know the fragility of the system, like we know. We know it's fragile, and we know that whether it's a storm or a financial crisis, that people are going to get unruly. And my argument is that it is a moral issue, but there's a lot of morality that needs to be taught, because people who give out government services they believe themselves to be very moral. Just like, you know, the thug on the street, he doesn't necessarily lay awake at night for what he has done wrong. But I think as the government breaks down and can't provide the services, that immorality will be expanded with the people, and the people will say, well, the government has to do this, and they're not forthcoming, so therefore I am going to take what is rightfully my own. And I think our enemies know that, and they'll say, well, even though they have pretended that they were going to take care of everybody who needs help, they're really there to control them. So this is why I think they lay these plans. But it is rather scary, especially since the founders didn't even want a national police force. We shouldn't have any federal agents other than our military to have guns. And now we have hundreds of thousands, I don't know the exact number, I know it's over 100,000 federal agents who are carrying guns. And that number is going to continue to expand. It looks like they have a lot of guns if they're buying a lot of bullets.
So basically, do you agree with my boil down that they know the collapse is coming, they're digging in for it, while telling the public it's bad to basically be a prepper? I mean, why doesn't government want us to be preppers? 11 days without power now in many areas of New York and New Jersey, and all government is doing is frustrating the efforts. It's churches and citizens that did prepare that are actually holding things together and giving their neighbors food. Some estimates are more than 60% made no preparation. They're just begging the government. That's the Obama disaster plan, is to have just, I guess, a bucket you beg for government handouts from.
Yeah. Well, that'll come to an end. I don't know if you saw it, but this picture should be used by all of us to show exactly how efficient they are. Did you see the picture of the FEMA office up in New York? They had the storm, then the northeastern come in, and the snow came, and the sign says FEMA office closed due to weather.
Yes, I did see that.
Did you see that thing?
In fact, guys, pull it up. FEMA office closed due to weather. It's all over the place. We can show people watching on TV.
Isn't that something else? That is so symbolic of the idiocy. And, you know, people always, you know, they went after me for having condemned FEMA for so long and voting against it, in spite of the fact that I took care of a coastal district. But I won that argument over with my constituents, because I did more to help them get around the bureaucracy and get through the bureaucracy. And when the police or the feds wouldn't allow them to go in and get their property, we would go to bat for them. So the people themselves are a little bit further ahead than the politicians and the media people think they are. Absolutely.
Congressman, moving quickly now in the last 10 minutes we have left with you, what do you expect Obama to do now that he's got 4 more years? In his victory speech, he talked about how we're a collective, we're not individuals. Very creepy kind of you didn't build it statements again. He's got constituents literally that just beg incoherently for their free Obama phones. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just very, very sad what dependency does to people. And now they are just racing ahead saying UN gun treaty. And now Dianne Feinstein, it's on record, says she physically wants California style, not just a ban on sale of semi-autos. They want you to turn them in. I mean, that could cause a civil war, Congressman. People are not turning their guns in.
No, that's right. And, politically, they generally back off on that. In the last several presidential elections, even this one, Obama didn't campaign on stricter gun control. That doesn't mean he won't work for them, but he knows politically it's not popular. And I think those are drawing the lines in the sand. If they knock on the door, they want your gold and want your gun, I don't think the people are going to give them up. But that doesn't put them out of business to harass us. They're going to maybe put more limits on buying ammunition, more taxes on it. They're going to make it more difficult for you to sell your gold or use your gold, and maybe have 50, 70% tax on your gold. And they will do this, but that'll just drive the underground economy, to a much greater height. But no, they will continue to do that. So I don't know how this treaty will pan out. I keep always wanting to be, a bit optimistic and say, they can't possibly do that. That's going against the grain. So once again, it's going to be up to us to reach people and not reach just our hardcore friends. I mean, that's why we have to reach out to a new audience as well and say that they have to join us in these efforts. And I'm hopeful for that because we do have the internet, and I know they're trying to attack us there, but we're still able to get more information. Right now, we're riding high on our internet abilities compared to the three major TV networks.
Absolutely. Are you concerned about the internet kill switch, cybersecurity, and all these calls to reinstate the fairness doctrine for talk radio?
Yeah, I am concerned, but I also hope that technology is so big and so broad that the private market is able to overcome any obstacles. So, and I don't understand exactly how all that works.
Sure.
But I hope I'm not naive to think that people can, develop their own protection. But ultimately, the only thing that counts with its guns, the goals of the internet or war, is to awaken the people to saying, we're not going to put up with this. Governments reflect the people.
Sure. Expanding on that in the limited time we have left, going to move quick now, Congressman, because I want to get to several other points here. I'm very glad to see that you've taken back over Campaign for Liberty now that you're not running for president and about to finish up there with Congress. So congratulations on that. Very exciting to see you in there because I know like nobody else can drive it right with all the grassroots. What do you make of the Republicans and this new spin that Republicans need to get more socialistic and become the Democratic Party to win, when the reason the Republicans have lost, in my view, is that they've gotten so unconstitutional, people are just standing down. That's what the numbers show. What's your take on this talking point we're seeing that Republicans should just adopt Mao Zedong's views?
Yeah, it's just diversion because from where we are in this country today, and when we look at our political system, we only have one party, so we're already there. It's just tone and rhetoric is slightly different. So, yeah, they may move a little bit in that direction, and what they say has nothing much to do with what they do. And that's why, we have to watch what they do and where they go. But going in that direction, of course, would be the obviously wrong thing. And I think it's becoming more clear because we don't know the exact numbers of support that we had in the campaign, but it's bigger than they gave us credit for. And I keep thinking of those 12 million that refused to vote. Some of them, maybe a large number of those are sympathetic to us. So therefore, our numbers outside are significant, and I still work on the assumption that it is that attitude that eventually prevails. I mean, when the attitudes changed in the Soviet system, communism, fell apart because it had no strength left, and the people no longer supported it. Absolutely.
They can only steal from one group to give it to the other. And as it gets clearer and clearer that big government doesn't work, it'll finally implode. That's why we just got to keep working, keep getting the word out. Congressman, is it time for people to apologize to you and myself and others for talking about the Bilderberg Group and the Davos New World Order crowd? Because now in the Financial Times of London, Reuters, AP, they say there is a global government, technocrats, mega bankers, they're going to run the countries, they're going to appoint the leaders, they're going to get us at a fiscal cliff, hold us hostage. I want to play you a brief clip here from the Kudlow report where they announced we're slaves to international bankers. Here's that clip, Congressman Paul.
So mostly what they do is hold summits.
I think that right now the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? Jim Urio, you say we've got some downside here, a correction in the markets. Fine. But aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do? Aren't we all just counting on the fact that there's a Bernanke put and that we won't go any lower than, say, 5% down from here?
Of course we are.
All right, let's stop there. And then all four guests agree we're under world government. They're bragging we're under world government, but then I hear we're not supposed to talk about it, Congressman. Isn't this our strength and not our weakness that we've been right about this? Instead, now we're being told we should not talk about this?
Well, obviously, we should talk about it. The fact that they don't want us to means that we really have to talk about it. I've written a speech that hopefully I get enough time to give on the House floor, a farewell speech, and I listed 5 major problems that we face. And one of those 5 is international government. You know, the fact that it's the UN, WTO, IMF, and the World Bank taking over, deciding when we go to war and how to deal with trade. The whole works. So I would say giving up our national sovereignty, it's bad enough that we've given up individual and state sovereignty to our federal government, but I see the giving up of our national sovereignty to internationalism, and they claim, well, they need the WTO to have free trade. They need the WTO to protect the powerful trading special interests, the internationalists. So, yes, that is a big issue, but don't hold your breath on getting your apology, because I don't think Chris Matthews is going to call you or Rush Limbaugh is going to call you in the next week or two.
Absolutely. Well, we only got a minute and a half left. Congressman, I hope you can come back again soon. I don't want to kill you, literally, making you work so hard, but thank you so much for coming on the broadcast. In closing, we just want to thank you for all you've done, and can you talk about also the vindication that they now admit, all over the news, LA Times, you name it, that Al-Qaeda was put in by the UN and NATO and our government in Libya, now in Syria. We'll fade the music down for a moment. And is now blowing back on us again. Your comment on that?
Yeah, well, it shouldn't surprise any of us, because I think when that, started, and just at the very beginning, I made some projections on that, and before you knew it, the weapons and the support we were given to certain groups were turned against us. So it's, but I don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be a genius to figure out.
Very well said, Congressman. Man, I tell you, Ron Paul talked right into the break there, but he had to go. That guy worked so hard. He was doing an interview while driving. He had just arrived at his destination at his meeting to go speak to a crowd, so he had to go. But it was great talking to him. You know, I didn't push too hard to get Ron Paul on the last 6 months or so, because I knew they were just had him all over the place working hard. But I also knew that, he'd said, I want to come on every month, but that the messages weren't all getting passed on. And I can't blame Ron Paul for that. So I was like, you know what? Ron Paul ever wants to come back on, he'll contact us. And we got word through Lou Rockwell, he'd like to come on. So it was great. And Ron Paul's like, hey, I hadn't been on a while. Hadn't had me on. So it was great having him on. And he was also saying, hey, I heard, some folks saying that you might not be too happy with some stuff. And I meant to get to that, so I'll just get to it now here on air as an addendum that we'll tack on to the video for radio listeners that we'll post tonight of this, because we also stream video of it if you're a radio listener. I hold Ron Paul and Campaign for Liberty to a higher standard because they've always been non-compromise. And I've been critical of Jesse Benton and some of his decisions, but you can call that armchair quarterbacking, but I've been in there helping the campaign from day one for 17 years. I mean, Ron Paul's district used to come right up to South Austin. I've been interviewing Ron Paul for 17 years. Ron Paul never compromises. Ron Paul is a great guy that I totally, agree with literally on 99% of things. But I meant to get to this with him on or off air, but I didn't have a chance because we had to go on air and then go off air. So since he brought it up to me off air, I'll just get it on record here. He said, yeah, a few people, in the campaign and stuff said that, you were being critical, But he goes, I know that's not true. Alex Jones, has always been a stalwart supporter. And I said, yeah, let me just be clear. Jack Hunter, and let's put it on screen, wrote articles saying we shouldn't be critical of the Bilderberg Group. And it was in syndicated columns. It was in the Charleston City paper and others. Clearly pointed at yours truly this year at Bilderberg, saying that it was stupid to talk about the New World Order in Bilderberg when they're announcing it. Ron Paul's been proven right. I've been proven right. So that's my point. And then I'm sure guys like that then go to Ron Paul and say, oh, Alex is attacking you to drive a wedge so that Ron Paul then thinks I don't like him. Ron Paul's not stupid, Jack. Okay? And listen, Jack, I understand. I mean, let's put him on screen. I got a photo of him. I'm not Jack Hunter's enemy. And it's one thing if Rand wants to go, meet with the founder of a bunch of online banking systems like PayPal, Peter Thiel, who is Bilderberg. I'm not against actually meeting high-powered people to try to convince them. As we gain more steam, as we become stronger and stronger, as we try to contend, we will be approached. I've been approached by billionaires. I've been approached by top movie stars. I've been approached by two-star generals. I've been approached by defense contractor chairmen. Okay, and I've had conversations with them. When something's off record, unless it's criminal what they're telling you, it's off record. I wear a journalist hat. I wear a commentator hat. I wear a journalist hat. I wear a ranter hat, entertainer hat. Sometimes I do things that are entertaining just for fun, skits and things. I wear a lot of hats. I'm a complex guy, Renaissance man, you could say. I mean, I'm proud of the fact I do a lot of things. Not all of them well, but I try a lot of things. But humans are Renaissance creatures. So that said, obviously it's heady for Jack Hunter and to now see Ron Paul's former chief of staff for the campaign, Jesse Benton, now working for the senator from Kentucky, not Rand Paul, but the other one. And so, okay, guys, great. You're big, high-powered Republicans now springboarding out of the Ron Paul revolution. Here's the deal. I'm with the constitutional libertarian movement. I'm not with go toady after mainline Republicans. I'm trying to change mainline Republicans and Democrats. I'm sticking to my guns because I know that's the right path. I'm not going to compromise. And so you can read his article, Bilderberg Conspiracies Have Become a Handicap for the Liberty Movement. So I've criticized some of the people at Campaign for Liberty, and guess what? They're not heading it up anymore. Some people over there. Ron Paul's back running it. And it's going in the right direction, so I'm supporting Ron Paul, just like I always did. But I, as one of the founding supporters of what is the modern Ron Paul movement, I've got my view and my statements as well. Okay, and I'll talk about the Bilderberg Jack Hunter if I want to. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live and we are broadcasting worldwide on this Friday edition. It is the 9th day of November 2012. If you just joined us, Ron Paul was on with us for 30 minutes during the last hour. It was a bombshell interview. And I didn't get to one of my final points with him, so I'm going to cover that here in a moment. And then get into the latest on the election. Obama saying he is coming for your guns. He is coming for your electricity. He is coming for your cars. He is coming for your family. He's going to tell you what your kids are going to eat. Major cities everywhere, from Chicago to Atlanta, from San Francisco to Trenton, New Jersey, you name it. They're all coming out saying, we're going to tell you no soft drinks. We're going to tell you no milk products. We're going to watch what you eat. We're going to control your life. I mean, this is dungeon level prisoner control we're going under with the nanny state. And I look at the Obama supporters on average, especially the white ones. There's nothing more chicken-necked than they walk with a shuffle. They're into their weakness. They're into their fawning on the system. It is a religion of statism and the fact that they're weak and have power through the collective. I mean, I've observed these people. These are very sniveling, mindless weirdos. But yesterday, we opened the phones up for Obama supporters, and some called in and said, hey, Bush was really bad. I like Obama. And I don't want the neocons in again. And I get that. So some of them had reasonable points. Others, though, were unbelievable. And I meant to do this more often, but we're going to start doing it a couple days a week where we don't screen calls, but sometimes I say, hey, the phones are just open for police officers, or the phones are just open for school teachers, or we want your take on government health care. Phones are open for medical practitioners, RNs, nurses, doctors, things like that. The phones are open for Obama supporters right now, 800-259-9231. And let me tell you a couple of them. We're reading right off talking points, man, about your guy lost, ha, 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 I mean, it was amazing. So we need to hear the victory, the satisfaction in the voice out there, because they're not successful because of themselves in their lives. It's Obama. It's the state. It's the government. And conservatives do this when it comes to war. A lot of them really get off on shock and awe, buildings blowing up, watching jets take off, aircraft carriers. I've talked to business owners, liquor stores, pizza places, restaurants, and I'll walk in. I've done it so many times, and I've talked to people that, you know, I run restaurants, liquor stores, and I'll say to them, but I've asked them in stores as well, let me guess, what's the most busy time ever you get in here? And they'll go, what, holiday? And I go, no, anytime. And they'll go, well, it's got to be a holiday. And I'll go, think again. And they'll go, a war, when there's a war, when a war starts. I'm like, that's right, because I'd also seen articles about liquor sales and food sales. The mainline conservative pulls in, gets just gallons of alcohol, goes home for days. In fact, a lot of conservatives end up not even showing up for work for a few days when a war starts, and it is just drunken pleasure. And they sit back like it's a football game and woo and cheer. You'll see it on the news when, like, people really enjoyed watching the, you know, the cruise missiles fly in. It'll show some Iraqi television shots of one flying over, and the Iraqis all scared, and everybody claps. Oh, look at them, they're scared. Those, you know, what heads, all the racist terms, and then it'll show like an apartment building, boom, and the TV station, the power plant. Hey, the lights are off in Baghdad. Yeah, woohoo, yeah. Let's blow them people up. Yeah, pretty sick. So I want to be fair here. You know, when you hear the satisfaction of a pathetic Obamanoid, you guys are pretty pathetic sometimes, too. You mainline people think conservatism is having a big global empire and attacking a bunch of countries and putting al-Qaeda in Libya and Syria, and then having al-Qaeda attack the Serbs and then forgetting about it later. And this is the reality is what I'm getting at, okay? And so it's pathetic. So it's not just Obamanoids that are in an absolute love affair, a deep love affair, at every level with the state. A lot of mainline Republicans are in love with it in other ways, and that's why real constitutionalists, real libertarians, real conservatives in record numbers didn't vote this time. It's not because they're stupid, they're smart. They just couldn't do it. They know it's a lesser of two evils only on one level, that Romney was worse than others, and they couldn't do it. But how dare you Obamanoids call into a show run by one of the, you know, the chief constitutionalist who does deep research and laugh at me like I'm upset that Obama got in because Romney didn't. I would have been upset if either one got in different ways. And I'm upset about where this country's going. I'm upset about our power prices exploding. I know what that's going to mean for people on fixed incomes. I've got family that's on fixed incomes that almost was going without food because they were too proud to talk about it or go on welfare. And if I wouldn't have helped them, they would literally be, you know, old people on dog food. You make me sick. And it's your love of this big corrupt thing that's allowed this to happen, and it's going to get a lot worse. And when the power prices more than double nationwide the next few years, that's a conservative estimate. I live in the beta test city. It's already doubled in the last 5. They're in the news. I've read it saying, get ready for a doubling. It's for the earth. No, it's to squeeze us and shut us down. You think we can't compete with all the regulations and healthcare and government control with China, India, Mexico, and 160 other third world countries where our jobs are all going, our economy went? You think we can't compete? Now, wait till our power prices. That's all we had going was the cheap energy, and it's going bye-bye. The cheap energy's going bye-bye. The giant profits for the globalists are here, and you call me and laugh at me and giggle and say, your old precious Obama got in. You people are dangerous because you're so ignorant. And you will have your time. Socialism will probably fully take over. You'll get to see total poverty everywhere. I guess misery loves company. And you're victorious. You've destroyed us. And conservatives, mainline conservatives, you're not conservative. You've helped do this as well. And so you're just all different flavors of the same deception. And but at least conservatives that are mainline are pro-gun, anti-abortion. At least they realize that freedom and free market on the surface is good, you see. At least they've got that in their mind. You Democrats have nothing. Nothing, except maybe on the surface, you're understanding a bunch of wars aren't a good idea. But then if Obama does it, well, it's not a war, it's a peace action. So the globalists have got it all covered. Both parties get done what they need. It looks like there's a difference, and it isn't, because they're really one big stinking thing that kind of fights with itself over who gets to run things. It's kind of like me and my wife. The only time we have arguments is if we finally get my parents to babysit or something, and we're going to, go out to a movie, and we sit down at the computer or iPad to see which movie, and I'm like, I don't want to see a chick flick. I don't want to see a chick flick. Let's go see a science fiction movie. She's like, no, I'm not going to go see one of your science fiction movies. And I'm like, but most of the time when I take her to one, she goes, this was actually really good. I'm like, yeah, you liked Cloud Atlas, didn't you? I mean, even though it had a bunch of messages that probably weren't the best in it. I mean, the point is that it was overall a good movie. It had a lot of good messages, too. The point is that this is the type of stuff that goes on. And that's about the difference with the Democrats and Republicans. I mean, when you finally get down to the final equation. We're going to go to break, and we got Matt in Nebraska, an Obama lover, listening on XM 166. We got Dave, he loves his king. He's listening in Pennsylvania. John in Ohio. James, Kevin, everybody. We're gonna kneel to you right now. And you are victorious. Not by your literature, not by your art, not by your inventions, not by your strength, not by the sweat of your brow, but by your Obama phone god. Okay, that said, I'm not going to spend any more time on this. The Ron Paul thing. If you just tuned in, Ron Paul was on. Great interview. I've always loved Ron Paul. I blew up one time when callers were calling in after Ron Paul had already stepped out of the race, saying, oh, we got to vote Ron Paul. He's still going to get in. And I said, I don't want to hear about Ron Paul anymore and how he's still going to win. Okay, the Republicans shut him out. That's what happened. Please, I'm tired of the irrational exuberance. Okay. And then I criticized Jack Hunter, who was one of the head guys with him. He wrote this article, Bilderberg Conspiracies have become a handicap for the liberty movement. I mean, that's the key, that mega offshore banks run both parties, and the Bilderbergs, one of their meetings where they meet illegally with Hillary and Obama 4 years ago. We were there covering it this year, and he criticized it and said we shouldn't cover it and that it's kooky. Right when they're admitting in Europe, technocrat mega banks are installing leaders. They're admitting the mega banks are running Agenda 21. They're admitting the mega banks are saying they want our guns. They want 100 trillion new tax, London Telegraph, 100 trillion new global tax raised in carbon taxes. Here's Bloomberg. Coal's election laws could mean gain for carbon tax. Your new 50% taxes on your energy. We'll go to that. Private groups. Obama may levy carbon tax to cut U.S. deficit. We've been conquered by foreign banks. Okay, and if we can ever admit we were conquered, not militarily that we're designed to face, but by economic corporate takeover that's not free market and criminal, which I played for Ron Paul, CNBC admitting we're in a global government run by private banks. And he goes, yes, but we're not going to get our apology. So all I've said on air is, hey, Jack Hunter, Ron Paul's talking about the Bilderberg Group 30 years ago, buddy boy. In speeches, in his newsletters. So don't sit there at Campaign for Liberty now and tell me I'm bad when me and my listeners help build Campaign for Liberty and we like Ron Paul. And then so they run to Ron Paul and they go, oh, Alex Jones is talking about you. Man, you guys are a barrel of snakes. Okay? And I'm glad Ron Paul has taken him back over Campaign for Liberty. You guys have, Jesse Benton and others scurried over to work for the mainline Republican Party. Look, they're mad that the real constitutionalists are here saying, you're not hijacking Campaign for Liberty. Bilderberg can go to Hades. Put it in your pipe and smoke it. We love Ron Paul. You didn't drive your wedge. You fail. You lose. You lose. You lose. How do you like it? How do you like it? We're exposing Bilderberg. We're exposing the New World Order, and nothing on earth is going to stop it, only the good Lord above. You understand that? Who can stand against us if God's with us? You understand that? We're not going to shut up. Okay, I'm going to cover news, and I'm going to take your calls. At the start of the next hour, Aaron Dykes is going to come in here and host the last hour. For no particular reason. I just think it's good to get him in here so that he can introduce a bunch of special reports we did. One of these premiered last night on the news. We had a caller who called in who said I was a liar. Chicago does not restrict guns. There is no plan to get our guns, and I'm completely insane. And Obama has not announced he wants to ban semi-autos, and Dianne Feinstein said physically take them. So we show clips of her, clips of Holder, the quotes. It's 22 minutes long, and so we'll play that in a couple segments. Aaron Dykes will cover some other breaking news and a couple other great reports. Sha'Carri Jackson did a great one on foreign news covering CIA drug trafficking, but it's got subtitles, so he was like, hey, you going to play the special report? And I said, well, it's in Spanish. He goes, but it's got subtitles. I'm like, yeah, that'll work good for radio. It's just funny. It's just funny. I do the same stuff. I was walking around the other day going, where are my sunglasses? To my wife, she goes, they're on your head. Anyways, even when you're smart, folks, you miss the simplest thing. That's why we've all got to double check each other in this world. Just a bunch of special reports coming up. But let's start. I'm going to try to shut up, have the Obama people make their their comment, and then I'll move on to the next person. Because if I go into a long diatribe, even refuting him, I know our audience is informed. It's just best to hear the distillated genius that is the Obamanoid. So, Matt, thank you for calling in from Nebraska, XM 166 listener. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Alex, I voted for Obama just because there's nobody really else to vote for. That mainstream wasn't telling me to vote for, so... and I sent you an article update on show tips about FEMA shelters not really existing, but in Columbus, Nebraska, they got approved for a $6.9 million FEMA shelter that's going to hold over about...
Yeah, no, I mean, basically, FEMA shelters are giant barbed wire facilities to lock people up in. That's why folks showing up at them, no food, no water, no power. I covered that out of what Associated Press and CBS News in the last hour, and then they hang up signs saying, due to bad weather, we're gone. We're government workers. We're going to go spend some paychecks right now. So, Obama phone. So you're being sarcastic, Matt. Did you really vote for Obama because the media told you to?
No, I voted for Gary Johnson. I'm sorry.
All right, Matt, listen. We had callers. They had the lines burning up. People were finding the office lines yesterday wanting to get on to refute the Obama people. Please don't cheat and say you're an Obama supporter. I want to hear the actual people with the satisfaction, with the condescension, telling us we need to be arrested and stuff. We need to hear them. John in Ohio, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been opposing Obama since 2007 as a sinister CIA agent, a stooge of Wall Street in the military-industrial complex, who's 99% Republican, but uses that kind of phony, vague populist rhetoric to con his people into thinking that he's something other than what he is. And I actually think, I'm ashamed to admit it, that this wretch is a lesser evil than Romney, who would have taken us into World War III, a catastrophic war with Iran, and then with Russia. His top enemy is Russia, as his own statement, and every bit of Obama's rabid warmongering support for al-Qaeda to destroy countries, and the guise of supporting...
Yeah, Romney was saying Obama wasn't doing enough in Libya and Syria, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly my point.
John, here's the problem. You've been calling the show for 10 years and then run off other places and talk trash about me, which I love, by the way. Just get the name right, AlexJonesInfowars.com. People don't understand the entertainment value when people send me clips of being attacked. It's actually a sick indulgence that I've tried to repent of, literally. And that's not reverse psychology, folks. It's a sickness I have. But the issue here is socialism and communism never works, John. I get there's a form of crony capitalism that's absolutely virulent as well, but communism is a horrible nightmare. I hate it. I hate the Agenda 21, the plastic cities they want to cram us in. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And you know what? Show me where communism and socialism has delivered some Valhalic wonderland.
That's not exactly the point right now, but actually your lies about that, these deformed forms of communism have been proven absolute John Birch Society Nazi concoctions.
That's all you commies can say is John Birch Nazi. I say I don't want government-run health care written by insurance companies. I'm a Nazi. I say I don't want our power plant shut down. I'm a Nazi. And that's all you got, every one of you guys. Nazi John Birch. I think the John Birch Society's an incredible. I think they've documented for 50-something years exactly what actually happened. I think you go watch old film stuff of in the 50s and stuff of Welch talking. It's like he's a prophet. I've never even been to a John Birch meeting, but I've sure read their literature. You think that's like some label that scares people away? I support the John Birch Society. They tell you you're free, but then they've got it all set up where it's impossible to ever get ahead. And you've got to buy everything from the company store. You got to buy it all from Walmart, not from those Amish, those farmers, not from that co-op. All the talk about environmentalism, it's the opposite, destroying the environment, but saying carbon dioxide is evil, while cross-species, genetic engineering, toxic waste dumping, everything else they're doing. It's all about land grabbing. It's all about power. It's all about the criminal syndicates having the moral high ground. And then these people get indoctrinated in the educational system, funded by the big mega banks. Notice the richest people fund the universities, and the more educated you are, the more communist or socialist you are. Look at the national studies. The more educated you are, the more you vote Democrat. Educated. Now there's a middle class, though, breakdown. You can pull these demographics up where nouveau riche, people that are worth millions of dollars, what poor people think is rich, what the elite think of as their enemy because they are independent, they vote almost exclusively Republican and Libertarian because they know how to run things. They know how to build things. They're producers. And so we're always stuck between the globalist on top, people that make $100,000 a year and right on up to $1 billion a year in some cases, by the ultra-rich that hate competition and want consolidation. And you talk to socialists and communists, and I mean, I went to college with them. I went to high school with them. Politically, I've been to so many events, and they'll come right up and say, you racist scum, get out of here. We're going to beat you up. You're like, I'm just here videotaping the Democratic Convention. I went to the RNC, too. This is back in 08. They go, we're going to punch you in the back of the head when you're not looking. You racist scum. And it's always a white guy, and you're like, that was like some methamphetamine head. You know, there's some trust fund kid, and you're just like, you were brought in here by a big foundation, weren't you? You know this is all bull. You're actually just an operative. That's right, I am an operative. We're going to kill you someday. I've had them repeatedly tell me that in Austin, everywhere, and they're just criminals. What's sick is when you realize it's not even an ideology with most of them. Some of them are dumb enough to actually be communists, but a lot of them, it's just something they say. It's just something they push. And then you've got the poor, dumbed-down people that were never taught how to build anything, never given an economy because it had been offshored. Everything's designed to make you dependent. And they've grown up, you know, drinking baby formula that's 75% corn syrup. Have you looked at the baby formulas out there? The brains are getting smaller, physically smaller. The CC size of the inner skull is the same size genetically. In fact, even getting bigger in some cases, but the brain's little because it doesn't get the fats it needs. There's not fats in the diet. They drink fluoride all day, drink aspartame all day, and they're like these little mindless jellyfish that come in all colors and shapes, just drooling around, shuffling around. That's kind of the lower level. And above that's kind of a trendy class that shuffles around, and the men are into acting weak and the women are into acting dominant. You'll see a woman who's got like sometimes 2 or 3 males trailing behind her that the more weak they act, the more she pats them on the head as she looks around hatefully at any strong men. They'll got to be brought down. I mean, it's quite a scientific system that's been set up. And then above that, you've got all the other guilds, and you've got all the business people that just think they're going to get ahead by not caring about anybody else but themselves. And it's just a big, wicked nightmare mess. All scientifically engineered, dumbing the culture down, attacking the family, poisoning the food and water. Whew. I'm sorry. Let's go back to more Obama people. Who's up next? We've got Dave in Pennsylvania, an Obama supporter, then Kevin, James, Ben, Zeke, and others. Dave, please enlighten me about our Lord and Savior. I don't want to be blasphemous. Our King, Obama. He's now being called that by Democrats in posters, in signs, in shirts. I thought it was a joke at first. It's real. He is now the Caesar, the King. Well, he was called the Christ 4 years ago. Some of the churches were. So tell us, Dave, about your great victory.
Yes, Alex, are you genuflecting right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, sir. Well, you put out the call, and I just wanted to let you know that, yes, I did. I did vote for Mr. Obama. And on the way up to the polling place, I saw all the people with their Romney hats and, you know, with their bumper stickers and stuff, and I just smiled and waved, and I said, yes, I can, and yes, we can, and yes, I did. I did vote for our Lord and Savior, Mr. Obama.
Good.
Why,
And I mean, tell me why you did that.
Well, two reasons. The first one was I've been a big Ron Paul supporter for over 20 years. I knew him before he hit the mainstream, and I've seen how the Republican Party and the neocons have treated him all these years. You know, especially at the end, they shut him out of the convention, and I was just, well, it's going to be a protest vote. I was tired of the Sean Hannitys, the Glenn Becks, the Rush Limbaughs taking over the Tea Party and claiming it was theirs. So I said, okay, all you neocons, it's like throwing holy water on a vampire. I'm going to drive a stake through your heart. Me and a lot of my Ron Paul friends here in Pennsylvania, we did the same thing. We voted for the Kenyon with a smile.
Good. So your idea is make things worse as possible. Let's get this thing on. By the way, if you're a TV viewer, we found an amazing candid shot of Janet Napolitano that was taken inside the Justice Department. And you can see all the Justice Department criminal lawyers and scammers and globalist terrorists and Oklahoma City bombing masterminds. They're bowing down behind her. And here you can see the American people kneeling to her. If you're not a TV viewer, and there she is laying another TSA agent. Anything else, sir?
Well, Alex, and hey, thank you for having Dr. Paul on, but I wish you would have asked him, you know, one question about his campaign and how it ended, and sort of with a whimper, not with a bang, because I thought he was going to go to the convention and, you know, raise the roof a little bit, and he sort of, like he did 4 years ago, just kind of like just stopped it. And I mean, I know I listened to your show after this happened, and I just wish you would have asked him that question. Said you left a lot of supporters sort of, you know, hanging out to dry.
Well, here's, I mean, look, do you really want to know what happened? Go ahead and punch me back up, guys. What happened is Ron Paul has a mission to try to have the idea of liberty and freedom and small government that made this country so great out there with the young people, and to get on television as much as he could. So when things collapse, people have an alternative. You see, they're telling Republicans right now, the talking point is, get even more socialist, endorse abortion, get rid of marriage, and all these other things. This is what you're hearing now from the talk shows. And then the Democrats will vote for us. No. You know, they become Stalin. You've got to become, you know, Mao Zedong. And then it just moves on down the line. True libertarians, which they admit would have won the election for Romney, stood down because they're done playing games with the neocons. This is the truth. The Republican Party is over if it doesn't get constitutional. The minute the Republican Party kicked out the globalist special interests that run it, same ones that run the Democrats, and really went with a constitutional system and a constitutional idea, people would line up, even people that one way or another get government contracts, and they would take less for a while just to get rid of this cancer. And I've looked at the numbers, the actuaries. It's an overwhelming win. Then you got to get through the electronic voting machine fraud. The problem is that the Republicans are bought and paid for at the top by the same globalists. So they're taking us down the road. So the libertarians said, well, let's just go ahead and let it get really, really bad and hope that it's kind of like a fever, wakes enough people up. And so, you know, the deals were made that if Ron Paul didn't go to Paul Fest, that the people set up, and that if he didn't attack and disrupt things too much, that Rand would get the speaking slot, and that the Republicans would work with him, and maybe he could be president someday. And that's basically what happened. And I think Rand Paul's a good guy overall. I don't think that was the daring strategy. I think it was a stratagem, not a strategy. And I don't like stratagems. I go with strategy, not stratagem. And people know the difference of that. You can look up the definitions. But a stratagem generally, you know, has some cloak and dagger in it, or let's just say things that are a bit untoward. But you can spin it in your mind and say it's not. And I have some proof of that. I know some of the backroom stuff. Ron Paul wasn't really even overall part of it. He just said, okay, I'll just go forward. You know, Rand was promised a lot more than he's actually going to get, too. And then you notice that all the little guys like Jesse Benton and others who are smart enough to marry into the family. So when you marry in, then it really becomes a problem to kick people out. But Ron Paul has pushed a bunch of those guys to the side now. Really, they already jumped ship into the Republican bosom, and he's come back in to run it himself. And that's what that call from Ron Paul through the great patriot Lou Rockwell, hey, Ron Paul wants to come on, that's what that was about. And let's just get it all out in the open. Because I said, you know, like 6 months ago, I said, just don't try to get Ron Paul anymore. If they ever want to come on again, they'll call us. And I like Ron Paul. I know he's for real. I know you can argue the socialist view, and it sounds good. But it can do some good for a little while, but it always becomes the greatest evil. It's like the Ring of Mordor. Libertarian constitutionalism, rugged individualism, that's the way to go. The eugenicists want socialism to control people. They want socialism to dominate and take control of you, not to lift you up. Okay, if angels were dispensing socialism, it still would probably create a problem down the road. Look, if you go to the park and feed the squirrels and feed the pigeons, they're going to overproduce and sit there and not do any work. If you feed the bears, they start coming into camp and don't know how to get food for themselves anymore, and they don't like how you know, bugs and carrion and mushrooms taste anymore, and they start breaking in your house and they start killing you. You know, if you get in their way when they're ripping open your refrigerator. And it's the same thing. This is what made Rome fall. And so all the socialists have got their reasons, low-level socialists, how they imagine they would divvy up all the goods and how government programs would build things. And to a certain extent, if it's raw infrastructure, yeah, it actually works. But then even that becomes corrupt. And then they use the infrastructure as a control grid. You know, it's like anything you build with the Ring of Mordor, any victory you have will end up, it's like the old legends of genies. I don't really believe in genies, but you know, it's the parable of, if you read, you know, the old Arabic things about genies, if you ask a genie for a ton of gold, first say, in front of me 20 feet, I want a ton of gold placed, and then as part of that, you are to swear to never do me harm or have anyone else do me harm. It's like a legalese, you understand? You get the lamp or the ring of power. Okay? You can't use the ring of power. Do you understand that? Because anything you do, you ask for the ton of gold, what does the genie do? It's always going to be more sophisticated and devious than you can be because it's ageless. It will figure out a way to destroy you with what you get. Do you understand that? Do you understand? You cannot use the lamp, you cannot use the ring of power, because it comes from a source of evil. It will come back and bite you in the butt. You understand? It's the Faustian riddle. You can make the deal. You can make the deal with the devil, and you could have always gotten out of it by repenting. The devil's lie is that it's always too late when it's never too late. You understand? Even don't believe in God. I'm talking about good and evil here, folks. Right and wrong. You trick yourself. Faust could have been free at any time by saying, I don't want what you've got to offer, I'm done. But he believed he was trapped. And people believe that the power they innately feel, well, if I just had some magic thing, if I just served evil, if I just did something bad, then it would prove myself, and then evil would give me power. Evil will only give you destruction. Any temporal power you get is a curse. Oh, many of you will never understand it. I know. Doesn't matter. Kevin in Illinois, you're on the air. Welcome.
Thanks, Alex, for having me on. Just wanted to just ask you a question. You know, you criticize people who voted for Obama. And so, I don't know, are you trying to say that you support Romney then?
Look, here's the deal. We had 3 callers who weren't really Obama supporters yesterday. This is happening again today. Maybe you are really one, but I mean, you've got to be smart enough. You sound like you're smart just hearing a few words out of your mouth. Try to explain this. It's like if you went to a car dealership and he said, you can have this Gremlin, or you can have this Pacer, or you can have this, you know, whatever the case is, junker. You're like, you know what? I don't like the price on these. I think I'll go to another dealership. You see, Romney would have been one sack of destruction, and Obama would have been another. But Obama openly is diametrically opposed to the principles that made this country great. So the fact that people are rah-rahing him is very disconcerting, like Ron Paul said, who didn't endorse Romney. That the fact that they rejected it, though, even his rhetoric, and are wanting socialism and free goodies, and we went out and talked to them. Articulate people that said, You know, I think we should give some goodies to people. And you know, one liberal patronized David Ortiz because he's Hispanic and said, it was a black guy, and he goes, and I think we should help the Hispanics a little more. Like, you're going to get something, and you're going to get something. Like, David Ortiz has worked for a TV station. He's worked in sales. He has skills. He's well-spoken. He's a good researcher. He's here not because he's Hispanic, but because he is a dynamic, intelligent, good reporter who does his research. Jakari Jackson isn't here because he's black. He's here because he's smart and dynamic and got a great voice. It's the same with all the reporters we've got here. Darren McBreen's not here because he's Irish. I'm not here because I'm whatever I am. I'm here because I want freedom. And don't you understand? It's watching you idiots celebrate about Obama, running around with your tongues hanging out like it's you just won the lottery, when I know how evil Obama is. It makes me sick. Don't you understand that? Go ahead, make your point. Tell me how great Obama is.
You know, it's one of the things where I don't think I just think he's a better choice at this point. And a lot of reasons are, if you look at Bush Jr. before him, 2 terms, you know, NDAA, all that stuff was already there.
And the same globalist that Obama is a puppet. Bush was a puppet. I understand that. But and see, an Obama supporter like you, I can kind of get what you're saying. Go, okay, but you think it's better because of the warmongering, and that's the one point I get. You're articulate. The people that call in start giggling and saying, I'm upset because my guy lost, which you kind of started with, I just don't know how to communicate with you. It's not that. It's that the system is selling Obama, and he's so bad. I mean, do you really think big government socialism works, buddy?
I don't think it's socialism at all.
Okay. More than half the American people that actually produce have their wealth taken. More than half of it.
Trying to pump up the economy, socialism. How is it when the bank bailouts you talk about all the time, they paid that back?
Actually, they didn't. That's a fraudulent news report. They took stuff at 0 interest, and only part of it was that. They had 3 different ways to get money: the open window, the rest of it. And they paid some of it back, and they were able to loan it out at 10, 20, 30% interest and make giant profits and then pay it back years later. And they ordered a lot of the banks to take the money. How was the government doing that? You know, it's like 40-something trillion that the mega banks got, not the $876 billion you were told about. Do you understand they play games, sir? Like Obama saying he wouldn't sign the NDAA, and then he did, and it turned out his people wrote it. I mean, you know that's admitted now, right?
No.
That's it. For next week, I want to take his call and show all the admissions where Obama's people wrote it. We'll be back with more of you guys. Humans are not meant to sit around and have somebody else bring them food. In any culture, that's not where we come from. It's not what we are. And it won't work. And these people that think that the managed inside economy, the socialism to the mega banks and the rest of them, like the last guy, and all the energy deal takeovers of coal that you think's for the earth. I mean, it's on record. It's all a scam. Aaron Dykes is coming up to break that down and premiere a big, the bottom of the next hour, gun report that is so devastating. We're going to start doing this with Obama callers, so look out. We're going to take when you say you didn't know something or I'm lying about something, and we're going to just, a few days later, after we get all the stuff together, we're going to hammer you. Hammer you. We're going to hammer him with all the information, that last caller. Not because I hate you, but because I love you. Briefly, speaking of free market, we sell the ProPure water filtration system that blows away all other gravity-fed filters, because this is what I researched. It's what I use in my home, what I use in my RV. The ProPure Travelers, the size of a regular, big unit with most companies, side by side, it blows the competition away. We sell them all. Normally, we had the lowest price. With 10% off, it blows away even that. We're doing 15% off through the weekend. On Monday morning, this deal is over. You can get 15% off with the promo code WATER15. You put water in, you get 10% off. WATER15, 15% off. ProPure. ProPure. Gravity-fed filters, InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. You can call on the weekend as well, 888-253-3139. And there's also a P.O. box there on the site, but you need to call and find out the shipping if you use the P.O. box. Okay, let's try to hurry through more of these Obama supporters. James in North Carolina, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Yes. First of all, Jones, man, I love you, dude, like a brother, dude. Wish nothing but the best for you. I love that zombie comedy you did the other day, and that election, after the election interviews. That was great, man. That was great stuff you were doing. Let's see here. It's more like with Obama. It's more like starvation. And Romney, I'm seeing World War III. That's what I'm. I don't.
No, that's the only argument that I think is fair. That Romney was licking his lips, talking about war with Russia and stuff, that not very and expanding things. Yeah, that. But don't worry, Obama's still going to do that too.
And some of my other talking points here. Let's see. I mean, he's more pro-cannabis, medical cannabis. Obama, I would
actually, on the surface, he is. See, that's what I'm saying about the NDAA. He said he was against it while his people wrote it to make sure it would get passed. He said he would veto it so there wouldn't be opposition. He is slicker than Romney. And that's what I'm telling you, is he stabs you in the back. Obama tripled raids in states. You can look this up. I've had the activists on, but it's medical dispensaries and things that were legal under state law than what Bush did. You're gravely mistaken about Obama and the cannabis thing. He lied and said he would stop raids. Did raids in states that decriminalized stop under Obama?
Okay. We disagree on that point to a certain extent. I understand where you're coming from.
But no, it's a fact. It's a fact.
It may be factual. Also, I mean, on the abortion issue, Solomon even said in Scripture, it's better for those who were never even born. So on some abortions, I can understand it, or the baby can't, talk or anything. It's better to abort. King Solomon said that in Scripture.
Have you ever seen footage of those babies crawling up, trying to get away from those knives?
Oh, I agree with you there, too, man.
They try to fight those knives off, man. I dare you to go watch abortion. It's online. You go watch a partial birth abortion and call me back, bud. Listen, man, people say I have my body. You went out, you got pregnant, you're having the kid, and you lie to yourself and say it isn't a human. Don't do it, folks. Don't do it. Look, we just got off into abortion, and I get the thing about rape. I understand that idea. You have the kid and give it away for adoption. There's more people wanting to adopt kids than out there than there are even abortions each year. 52 million babies killed. 52% of blacks never born in this country. And I got all these YouTube videos of black folks going, good, get rid of these black nappy-headed kids, all these cuss words. In fact, when I get back Sunday, I'm on Sunday, I want to play a bunch of those. In fact, I wanted to do a piece a few weeks ago. We never got around to it. It's just so sick. And look, here's the deal. I'm not judging you if you've had an abortion. It's okay. The system lied to you. But a lot of women that do it, and men, once they do it, they're always going to defend it because you can't admit it's wrong. Now they're saying, let's kill babies up to age 3. They're saying, kill old people. This is part of eugenics. Okay, so, Gloria Steinem saying, I had an abortion, I'm proud of it, it's sexy to have an abortion. You can pull those photos and articles up. It's sick. They're teaching you to hate life. Look at what's on television, all these shows saying kids are bad, families are gross, messages about government health care being good in the shows. It's anti-human, so you stand down and die. Okay? Can't you get that through your head? Can't you have mercy on the kid? They use that example of rape. Have mercy on that kid. Have mercy on them. Have mercy. Have mercy. And then it's another thing, even if it's in the first trimester. My God, second and third, ladies and gentlemen, I've gone and I've watched it. Okay? And listen, I grew up pretty wild when I was there, and I didn't know till I was older that girlfriends would go off and have abortions. My God, I'm guilty of this. Not consciously, but I feel guilty every minute about it. They were telling me about some TV show where the guy's haunted by it. That must be a common thing, because I'm haunted by it every day. If I drive by an abortion clinic, folks, I shake. It's the only thing that makes me shake. I just can't believe it. Because I look at my 3 children now, and I would kill. If 100 men, I guarantee you, were armed, I'd probably kill 15 of them before they got me. I mean, I would fight like a savage wolf for my children. I know it. Because I've been in a lot of fights. I know what I fight like just when I was fighting, just to show people I wasn't a wimp. I guarantee you, folks, I could climb over people, rip their heads off if I had to for my children. And back when I was a stupid teenager, what, you had an abortion? Well, I didn't say that was okay. Oh, whatever. What? That doesn't sound too good. As I got older, I realized, my God. And I've never talked about that on air. I'm going to do a piece about it. Like, my son's even here today. I just can't handle it anymore. And I hear these people get all excited about their right, and Gloria Steinem, how fun it is to have an abortion and all this sick stuff. You know, it doubles your chances of uterine cancer. That's major studies. You're not, you know, if you're meant 99% of the time, but that pregnancy is meant to be terminated, your body will do it. And how they're trying to get women to take vaccines, they know brain damages and causes problems with the kids. You Obama people or something else. Ben in Oregon, real fast. Aaron will take some more of your calls coming up. And then we've got this big special report. So, Aaron, be ready to get to at least these 3 or 4 more guys that we've been holding the longest. Ben in Oregon, tell me how great Obama is.
He's the best, Alex. I mean, first of all, you bet your bottom dollar I bet on him. You have no idea what you're talking about when you talk about him. Second of all, my bone to pick with you is I am a T.S.A. member, pal. And my real name isn't Ben. I'm trying to protect myself. But if you come through my airport, you think abortion clinics left you shaking, pal? You ain't even seen tyranny.
This is another junk phone call, right? You're joking around.
No joke, Alex.
So you enjoy, you must be a big wimp. You like picking on little kids all day?
No, just big wimps like you.
All right. That's good. You're a real tough man, huh?
I promise you, if I see that InfoWars sticker, you'll regret it.
So how much, so what do you do all day at the airport?
What do you think I do all day, Alex? I protect you. I protect your listeners. I protect everybody. If you don't like what I do, face the wall for 30 seconds, bite your upper lip, and get over it. I'm sick of you bitching about it.
Just take all the vaccines, drink the fluoride, punk. You cowardly punk. I bet you were a bully in school. You'll get yours. You cowardly piece of trash. We'll be right back with Aaron Dykes and a key gun report. Tell everybody you know to tune in right now.
Alex has thrown me to the mic so we can analyze what is going on. What an amazing caller. Thinks he's working for the system through Obama. He's got the power at T.S.A. You've seen those clips over the years, those crazy T.S.A. workers. Not all of them, of course, but the ones who are on a real power trip saying, I've got power. Do you have power, Alex?
He just called in, if you just tuned in, and said he's going to make me bend over and he's going to beat me and all this stuff. But anyways, take some more of these Obama supporters. We've got the big report with yourself, David Knight, and myself with that caller from yesterday where we totally document everything we said when he said Obama doesn't want our guns and that Chicago hasn't banned people's guns. That's coming up at the bottom of the hour, and you got a bunch of key carbon tax news, the proof of how it's meant to shut things down. I'm going to quit bugging you, but great job. Since you were talking about the T.S.A. going, I have power, I have power. And they take their clothes off and run around and announce they're God. That's happened a bunch. We're not joking. These are insane nobodies that want to grab your wife's genitals all day.
And they are just pawns in the state system. But why? Who has power? What is this power about? We are in a fight over the power monopoly as they try to centralize everything. That's why this gun thing is so important. That's why the carbon taxes are so important. They're controlling food so Bill Gates and Monsanto can reap profits worldwide and force you onto their centralized poison foods while they talk up organics and getting kids on healthy lunches, even though they admit in the Daily Mail that school kids eat a lunch worse than prisoners. They analyze the actual nutritional value. So we've got the big gun report coming up. Here's a quote that'll just lead into it. In 2001, during the UN gun debate, it was at King's College, a UN spokesperson said, quote, civilian ownership of firearms in the U.S. threatens the legitimate power monopoly of the state. That's the whole reason we have the Second Amendment right there. The Founding Fathers understood tyranny is natural. Anyone who gravitates towards power wants to control everyone, and genocide, depopulation, just legitimizing your own right to run your life. It's natural to anyone gravitating towards power. The whole reason we try to balance power with individual rights guaranteed under the Bill of Rights, the second among them right after free speech and the right to speak your mind and have your own religion, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Now you've got the Obama administration, the Clintonites, the United Nations people all trying to disarm us, not because they're going to keep us safe. They can't. That's the illusion of this T.S.A. caller. They can't keep us safe. They have never caught a terrorist. The T.S.A. has never stopped anyone. They let the underwear bomber on the plane. They let the 9/11 hijackers through because they were ordered to. It's a corrupt system. They can't and won't protect you. Look at what's going on with FEMA right now. That's why we have to protect ourselves. And the biggest way to protect ourselves is to keep the state from having a total monopoly of power. You've got to have separation of powers. I'm sure a lot of the Obamanoids are not having that. But let's hear, are there any other Obama supporters on the line? We have a Zeke in California. What do you have to say, Zeke?
Yes, that would be me.
Are you, in fact, an Obama supporter?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In terms of the dynamic of the spectrum there, I had to go with Obama on the spread out. Initially, I'm really a Ron Paul guy, a Ron Paul kind of a guy. But then when we deal with the Mitt Romney, you know, I think he's more of a rhino. For those of us that know, that's the Republican in name only type of situation.
Well, there's no doubt about that, but how do you go from Ron Paul to Obama?
Yeah, but see, it's the global body politic that I'm looking at. You know, I'm looking at the face of the world, the face of the United States, someone who is actually has some elements left of being a sound individual and a real individual, but I can even shake it up even more. I also supported Bush against Kerry, you know, because I don't hold Bush, you know, responsible for all the stuff they try to throw on him. Same thing, I don't think it's fair to throw all this stuff on Obama either, because we know it goes beyond Bush, beyond Obama, to their predecessors and many grandparents ago when they set up certain
But what
things.
about the system itself that's being collectivized? You keep identifying with political faces we get over the years. It doesn't make sense. We have to break out from the system. We keep endorsing it when we vote for people like Obama, Bush, you name it. They're only concentrating power. I mean, you don't see that?
Check this out. I would say this, because it's almost like acclimating a fish into another fish tank. If you get a fish from the fish store or whatever, you gotta, you know, float it in the bag in the other tank for a minute before you can dump it in there to get the temperatures and everything organized correctly. I think if we were to automatically just like jump up and wake up tomorrow and it'd be just like a Ron Paul environment, people aren't ready to take on that responsibility yet. There's a lot of truth that needs to circulate. There's a lot of things that people need to understand.
Why did you support Obama? I mean, that's why we're taking calls here. How did you come to vote for Obama? What do you think he's going to do that is anything short of horrible?
Yeah, it's more of as a real person, because I think if we have somebody there that's more of a real person, I think the inner city does tie into the global body politic, to where you have someone who can identify with the inner city, same way as yourself and Alex Jones, how you all understand there's a certain group of individuals who are not inner city folk who understand what's going on within the inner cities and how things have been unfairly. There's been a major attack, and then not just on the inner city, but the country as a whole. But fortunately, the other side of the dynamic has been waking up over these past few years with the Patriot movement. You know, I found out about Ron Paul through Aaron Russo. I was working with Aaron Russo when he brought up the American Freedom to Fascism, helped get that out in the land and everything like that.
All right.
So,
I thank you for your call. Of course, Ron Paul has tried to advance the liberty movement, return us to the Constitution. Aaron Russo, the late, great Aaron Russo, had a great documentary exposing how the Federal Reserve has captured this nation. And those are the real issues. Identifying with Obama is not going to get us anywhere. Identifying with Bush, Romney, there's not much to identify with. We are captured by a system which is moving towards total collectivism. I don't know if you understand that, but you've got to start to. These dependent inner city wards are not going to ever get freedom. We want freedom for people who are minorities who can't make ends meet in cities, and people who are losing everything under this economic implosion. You understand they're centralizing the energy controls. They're using these EPA regulations, the new announced move on carbon taxes, so that the crony capitalists, the corporatists who run the global structure, can profit off of it. You've got to understand this. Look at what happened with Enron. They gamed the system in California so they could artificially shut down the supplies, jack up electricity rates, and they're still doing it. All these big banks are. Just last week in the Daily Mail, you had Barclays traders who admittedly rigged American electricity prices to boost their own profits and bragged about it in damning emails. And they list some of those emails. This happens over and over again. And look back a couple years to the whole carbon tax debate. It almost passed through Congress. Now Obama's going to give it another go. If he doesn't do it through the congressional system, he's going to do it through executive fiat, through these new EPA regulations that they've been boiling over and everything else. And what are they doing? They're just gaming the system to force you on to the alternatives so they can extort you, so they can put you into an austerity mode and charge you more for less. And they'll convince you through all this green propaganda, environmentalism nonsense to get onto the system where they're allowed to control everything you do. Look at Agenda 21. Maurice Strong, the biggest figure behind it, preaching this environmentalism, how it needs to take over everywhere. Yeah, you want to look up his actual record. He's involved in stealing water rights in entire states in the Southwest. He's taking over dams from other companies who control them so he can make profits off of them while telling you you need to do less. I'm going to rant about this some more, but let's take another call. Do we have an Obama supporter in Nebraska? Scott, are you there? Hello?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Yes,
we want to know if you voted for Obama.
I definitely did. I had to. Here's my predicament. My back is phase 2. I've had 4 injuries on the workforces for, as the economy continues to implode. You end up doing jobs that you didn't need to do. I had 3 injuries in car wrecks, not my fault, and then 2 injuries in the Army. I've been fighting the VA for 2.5 years to get some kind of compensation that I can't get. I haven't paid the taxes on my house for a year and a half, and it's going to go up for auction in the spring sometime if I can't find the money or if the VA doesn't come through.
And how is Obama going to solve your problems, sir?
Well, the Republicans just basically used me up. If you look at the difference between Romney and Obama, Romney wanted to start giving all the money back to the military-industrial complex to keep the wars going. And at least you got a Democrat in there that will help the people that need the help. Because
they're not helping anyone. It's a two-headed beast. Did you not hear me talking about how it's a corporate-controlled, a crony capitalist system? They game and force everyone onto the system so that they have the insider deals to profit off of it. What don't you get?
They may distribute the money from those corporate deals.
Do you know who his Secretary of the Treasury are? Do you know who they're considering as putting in the Secretary of Treasury for Obama? Do you know who these people are, what they've been involved in? Do you understand they created the economic crisis? They deliberately created that bubble and popped it, bet on both sides so they could rake billions and billions off of it, trillions even, as they starved us out. Do you not understand that?
Well, I understand that, but I don't have a choice, because if I went the other way, the Republicans, in order to qualify for any kind of financial support in this state, you can't live off that small amount of money. I mean, I really don't have a choice.
I thank you for your call. Let's see what Kim in Georgia has to say.
You got to go to break. All I want to say is, yeah, you're going to break here, Aaron, doing a great job. Buddy, that's why they destroy the economy so you don't have a choice. That's why they said the hurricanes were good. Because then it made you love them. Michael Moore said that. So did Turd Matthews.
Oh, look how well they're taking care of them, Alex.
That's what this is all about, until they just line you up and machine gun you. They only give you the chicken feed up front to get you addicted so they can take over. They're eugenicists. They want you dead. Don't you understand that, Obama idiots? I'm sorry.
We're breaking down the guns.
Hey, yeah, the guns are coming up. We got one more segment of idiot calls. You got your energy news. We're going to cover that.
The state is the biggest killer. The state is the biggest killer. Democide. We're back at Infowars.com. This is Aaron Dykes. You just heard Alex. He's coming up on the replay. We've got a lot of important election recaps tonight on the Infowars Nightly News. We had great, unprecedented broadcasts with all our new reporters covering the important issues, breaking it down. But I want to reach out post-election to the Obamanoids who got confused and lost their minds and thought they could help themselves by voting for an authoritarian. I want to reach out to Romney supporters, even the bitter clingers who thought they had to hold their nose and vote for someone who at least talked conservative. This is a power monopoly game. That's why they're coming for the guns. We're breaking that down on the other side of this break, a very important Second Amendment breakdown of how the Obama administration, the Clintonids, the globalists, the United Nations are all coming after the guns. And they said that civilian ownership of firearms, it threatens the legitimate power monopoly of the state. You bet it does. Because all throughout history, it's a game of control. And I understand literacy has been broken down. I understand we have been dumbed down. But you've got to try to go back and read. You've got to look up history and see how much control through these authoritarians throughout history has been about disarming the population, starving them out, controlling the food supply, controlling the energy, and they're doing it all again. How did Stalin, how did Mao depopulate the areas they did? It was by withholding the food, controlling the food supply, and by disarming the population. That's how they lined them up in the pits. The Nazis did it as well. So did all the other authoritarian and socialist regimes throughout history. It's just simple dynamics of controlling the system from the top after you get everyone under one umbrella. And look again at what they're doing with energy. You've got to understand, what is Agenda 21? They want to force us into urban population centers. They say it's sustainable. It's the very opposite. The more you cram people into an area where they can't grow their own food, where you don't have property rights, the less sustainable you are. You lose all your individual power and give it over to the state. And will they protect you? No, because the Sustainable Council under President Clinton that started implementing Agenda 21 way back in 1993 was started by Ken Lay of Enron and other big power companies. It was all so they could control the supply and artificially shut it down to jack up rates while controlling your life more and more. It's all a monopoly game. You've got KKR, that's Kohlberg Kravis Roots, very big Bilderberg players, Goldman Sachs. They did the biggest ever energy buyout here in Texas. It's the TXU utility company all over those big coal plants, knowing that these new regulations were coming. Why did they do it? So they could saddle those coal plants with debt and rake off the profits. Now it's in the news just in October that the largest ever energy buyout, $45 billion, is now losing $2 billion. But the companies on Wall Street who have the insider firms, they're making $500 million in fees. You can see why they'd be interested in that. Again, Barclays traders caught in rigging electricity prices. This is what's coming under carbon, and the big monsters, the Rockefellers, the oil companies, Dutch Royal Shell, all the traders on Wall Street, the big banks who got the bailouts, they're the ones who are going to profit off of the carbon trading schemes they're forcing us onto. Anyway, I don't know if any of the Obamanoids are getting to it. We have some of them on the air. We're about to get to the big gun special on the other side, but let's see what Kim in Georgia has to say. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Aaron, for taking my call.
Appreciate it. Do you have your Obama phone?
No, well, actually, sort of. I supported Obama, and I'll tell you why.
Well, let's hear it, please.
They can go ahead and pursue their not-so-secret agenda. I think that Obama is capable of being the straw that breaks the camel's back. He's going to be the one that separates the sheep from the men. And I say let's just go ahead and get on with the inevitable.
So you voted for Obama to escalate the collapse and the divides in this country, basically, is what you're telling me.
Let's get on with it.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we need to try to avert that crisis. Let's learn to help each other. Let's move towards sustainability. The more they crack down on front yard gardens or people with chickens and come and mow them down under Agenda 21 with police escort guns and smoke them out with fire and everything. I'm referring to that case in Georgia, but it happens all over under different guises. The more we need to move back to the country, help our neighbors, and start to provide for each other. Meanwhile, we need to have a big conversation about how much we're controlled by those special interests in Washington and those people on Wall Street who are getting all the financial fees off of either side of this collectivist system. That's what's really going on here. Let's real quick move to Joe in Illinois.
Yeah, how you doing?
Hi. Let's hear what you have to say about Obama, please. We got about a minute.
Yeah, I supported Obama because Romney and Ryan want to cut federal jobs. Romney is pro-war. He has 6 sons. None of them serve in the military. But I wanted to ask Alex, was he racist?
Alex is not racist. You know, this is not about people's skin colors.
Hold on.
We're going to break. Alex is here.
Listen, I don't have my headphones on, but I'm out there actually doing some work, and so I'm hearing this in the background. And yes, I am against the fact that 52% of blacks are never born. I don't want blacks being butchered, so I'm racist.
We're on the march.
And I don't want you paying double.
The empire's on the run.
Aaron Dykes back here at Infowars.com. In just a moment, we are going to proof that they are coming to confiscate your guns. I've been researching this very special report with Alex. I've been researching with him for over 6 years, and I'm really starting to figure this out. I hope other people out there are too. And you gotta love it. Somebody calls in when they don't have an argument about the system, the way we're all game, the way they're coming after the entire population to debase us all. You gotta throw out racism. The state is racist. The state hates everybody. Don't you get it? The first gun control laws in this country were so that black people could not empower themselves on the age of Jim Crow, under the age of sharecropping, so they could keep them on the system, dependent, subsistent, living just enough to play into the larger state power. People won't talk about the black genocide. If you do, that's when people start giving you the weird eye. No, we need to start talking about that, about how much the system that loves eugenics, that loves abortion, that loves birth control, hates black people. They've got plans to tie housing and benefits to people not being allowed to have babies, and they will come and induce, in some cases, in these urban centers, people into having abortions. It's just disgusting.
China one-child policy, Foxconn, and there are abortuaries in there.
Alex is saying the China one-child policy, and they disarm there, too. It happens everywhere. It's a collectivist model. It has a socialist tinge, but the fascist tinge is just as bad. But without further ado, let's just get into the gun issue right now because it's happening, and it's so important. Let's go to that report. Are we ready?
Yes, we are bombarded by messages on television, in the culture, in the government-run schools, that gun ownership is bad. And we see cities like New York and Chicago with total gun bans for the citizens. We see states like California, New York, Illinois with incredibly draconian laws. And then we see foreign countries run by the globalists where they did the same thing. First restrict semi-auto, then register, then ban. You can only be at a hunting club. Then you can't have your gun at the hunting club. It's just totally gone. We've seen them do this over and over again, banning hunting. They're always saying, don't worry, you'll have your Second Amendment, but we're going to restrict your hunting. Also implying that the Second Amendment is only about hunting and not defense against tyranny and defense against the common street thug. There were a lot of things that the British imperial troops did that made the British citizens get mad and revolt. But the final straw at Lexington and Concord was the attempt to disarm the firearms and the ammunition. And we're right back where we started in 1775, 1776. Here we are. And today, I opened the radio show up to Obama supporters to call in and tell me what they thought. And they would say, oh, your man lost, when I wasn't even supporting Romney. And or hey, you're crazy. We're not trying to take your guns. And I'm like, well, Chicago's banned guns. I don't know anything about that. You're crazy. So there's always this crazy attitude where they say we're crazy when we point out real facts. Dianne Feinstein, Chucky Schumer, they've all called for total gun bans. The Violence Policy Center, Sarah Brady, you can go pull up their own publications. We're going to go over some of those in a moment with Aaron Dykes, where they've said this. And wherever they're in control, they take all the guns. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Bloomberg now wants to say what you can eat and drink and what type of sugar you can have and where you can go and how many people can be in your car. I mean, these are control freaks. These are authoritarians. This is Agenda 21. This is turning the whole world into a giant re-education camp. But before I go to our reporters, Aaron Dykes and David Knight, going over the evidence of the fact that the world corporate oligarchy wants to disarm people, that the UN's done it in dozens of countries. Here are just some articles right in front of me. Forbes did an analysis of the UN gun treaty that Obama is publicly supporting like he did a few years ago. Now they've probably got the votes in the Senate to ratify it. And you can go read the UN treaty. Here's Forbes saying UN agreement should have all gun owners up in arms. Enact tougher licensing requirements, creating additional bureaucratic red tape for legal firearms ownership. Confiscate and destroy all unauthorized civilian firearms, including those that are semi-automatic. Ban the trade and sale of private ownership of semi-automatic weapons, any that have magazines. And it just goes on and on. Create an international gun registry, clearly setting up the stage for full-scale gun confiscation. In short, overriding national sovereignty. But listen, I didn't just believe that. I went and scanned through the treaty, and we wrote multiple articles. Here's one by Aaron Dykes, Bombshell, Leaked UN Treaty, Does Ban Guns. And it goes through the subsections and links to the UN treaty. So it's not just us claiming it, because the caller's like, oh, something on your site. That didn't. No, it's links to the treaty. And then we even have the treaty posted on our site below it in case the UN ever pulled it. I mean, look outside the UN in New York. That's a civilian citizen, 357 Magnum, 6-shot. I've got one of those. My dad has that very gun. Awesome guns that he bought from a cop when I was a little kid. He gave me one. I've been looking at that gun since I was 2 years old. I've got one of the guns. That gun. Beautiful rose handle. I've got that gun. I got a 357 right here under my desk. Now, excuse me, I'm starting to rant. We need to get this report through quickly here. So, Go to our article, Bombshell Leaked UN Treaty Does Ban Guns. Then we have the footnotes there. You link through and you read this from UN.org. And it's the Department of Small Arms Restriction, UNIDIR, where they say civilian ownership of firearms threatens a legitimate power monopoly of the state. They said that back in July 7th of 2001 and couldn't get it through. I mean, we've read what the policymakers who write this come up with, and now they're back. We're going to get to that in a moment. But continuing, here is Reuters today. After Obama wins, U.S. backs new UN arms treaty talks. And that's disarming third world countries in Africa and other places so the globalists can come in and mow them down. Incredible. Remember Obama in the second debate? We've got those clips. You can pull it up for yourself. He said, I don't want to just ban semi-automatics. That's assault rifles. I want to ban the handguns. Well, that's what Dianne Feinstein has introduced last session and says she's going to introduce in the new session of Congress coming up in about a month and a half after Christmas. And I've got those articles. Guys, punch up the Google search here. Just type in gun control, type any of those searches in. We can punch in my computer that's right here. And just type in Obama assault weapons ban. Boom. Literally dozens of articles today. Look right here. Senator Feinstein looking to introduce new assault weapons ban. And this is what the Sacramento Bee is reporting today, that it's a physical ban. Not just from sale or new manufacturer. They want you to turn them in. That's in the Sacramento Bee. Okay? Oh, but look at ABC News. This is back in October. Boom. Obama calls for renewal of assault weapons ban. Okay, I've shown a few of the articles. We're going to go to Aaron and to David Knight here in a moment with other angles and more proof of this and their own quotes that they want to totally ban our guns because government wants total power over people. But here's the caller listening to us in Tennessee on WBCR, our local affiliate in Knoxville, calling in today, laughing at us and saying he's never seen any proof. So we'll go to that clip. And here we are, bud. We got it all for you right now. Let's go to a few excerpts of that call. William in Tennessee, do you support Obama?
Yes, I do.
Well, tell me all about how great it is.
Well, to be honest with you, Alex, you know, he has not mentioned banning guns. And I defy you to tell me where he has.
Part of it is seeing if we can get an assault weapons ban reintroduced. An assault weapons ban reintroduced.
Joe, I mean, you just say, I defy you to show you. I mean, sir, have you seen them ban guns in all these other Western countries?
No. I mean, it's not to have it. That's not going to happen here. Look, because it's a conspiracy website does not mean it's true.
Well, sir, you just said it. You said the word conspiracy theory and that nobody wants our guns. And I guess you're denying that the rest of the Democratic Party that they're always calling to ban guns. You're saying the Violence Policy Center, Sarah Brady, big contributors. Are you saying Rahm Emanuel didn't say that he wants to restrict our gun ownership and that he wants to put us on a no-gun buy list with no judge or no jury? Are you saying that's not true either?
That is, if you are on the no-fly list because you are known as maybe a possible terrorist, you cannot buy a handgun in America. That is the right thing to take into the election, and it's the right policy. If you're on that no-fly list, your access to the right to bear arms is canceled.
Are you really saying the one person having an opinion...
Hold on, put him back on hold. Sir, in the city Obama's from, is there a gun ban for the general population?
I don't know. I live in Chicago. I have no idea.
There you go. You live in a world of ignorance. All you do is say the word conspiracy theory.
God, you're nuts. You are a freaking wacko. You know that?
Mm-hmm. You bet. Crazy like a fox, too. Mm-hmm.
You're a wacko. Look, pal, according to your own website does not make you an expert. I have looked everywhere in the papers. I have been researched myself. They're not going to ban guns.
Okay, so I gave you proof. We just went to his clip. We're going to give you more proof now. I mean, I've just got stacks of it. Chicago Tribune. After Obama wins, U.S. backs new arms treaty talks. I was watching CNN during a break today on the radio. They're saying they're coming to physically get all the semi-autos. The ATF's introduced rulemaking to ban most shotguns. I mean, it's all happening. Aaron Dykes, we've got to move quick here because we've got to go back to Mike Adams, who's waiting in the other studio. But break down just in the little bit of a re-pooling of info, because we've already done this research 100 times, what you think about that caller.
First of all, it is a fact there was an assault weapons ban signed into, quote, law under Clinton. It lasted 10 years. It expired in 2004 under sunset provisions. So it's not exactly wacky to suggest it. You go to Dianne Feinstein, you just showed how she's reintroducing gun control.
Yeah, we're going to document cam this in a moment.
Meeting with the FBI and the ATF right now, this week, this month, on new provisions. So here's Dianne Feinstein, May 31st, 2012, recorded in the Sacramento Bee Voters Guide as she's running for Senate. Question, what special interests in Washington have too much power? She says, guns. I wrote the assault weapons ban that was the law of the land for a decade. So she's involved. She also brags about how she got the gun ban passed in San Francisco over handguns, despite the fact she has a gun permit, a concealed carry permit. She later melted it down into a cross as a stunt. Now she is trying to introduce a new assault weapons ban. It's in the Market Daily News that she wants to ban all assault rifles, high-capacity magazines, and pistol grips, and also refers to banning the sale of, quote, weapons in possession. That means private sales. You've got Obama calling for a renewal of assault weapons ban 3 weeks ago at the debate. He says part of it is seeing if we can get an assault weapons ban reintroduced, but the other part is looking at other sources of the violence, because in Chicago, it's not AK-47s. They are using cheap handguns, alluding to a handgun ban. Not surprising, since you go back to State Senator Obama as a candidate who filled out a voter survey in Illinois. Question number 35. Do you support the legislation to ban the manufacture, sale, and possessions of handguns? Yes. Ban assault weapons? Yes. Mandatory waiting periods and background checks? Yes. There's a series of bizarre denials where they claimed a staffer filled out that survey and that it wasn't Obama, despite...
And again, that's mainstream news reporting on them when they tried to claim they hadn't, but it came out they had. Again, they play these games with people.
But it doesn't really matter, because the 2003 survey he filled out for the same group, Illinois Voters Independent Preceding Organization, 2003, running for U.S. Senate, he filled out a similar survey. Question 35, do you support the legislation to ban manufacture, sale, and possession of handguns? This time, it's not a simple yes, it's a whole statement. While a complete ban on handguns is not politically practicable, doesn't say he doesn't want it, says it's not practicable, he believes in reasonable restrictions on the sale and possession of handguns, and the statement goes on. He again says, yes, he'd like to ban assault weapons. He says handguns and ammunition.
I mean, give me a break. It's from Chicago, where they've totally disarmed them.
Then you've got his Attorney General, Eric Holder, who again was in the Clinton administration during the assault weapons ban. In 1995, he's on video saying we must brainwash people against guns. Quote, what we need to do is change the way in which people think about guns, especially young people, and make them think it's not cool. Talks about doing it like cigarettes, and then says we need to do this every day of the week. We really just need to brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
And if you watch the whole clip, he's there at a media thing admitting he's met with the media saying put anti-gun messages, private ownership messages in your programs.
That's correct. Flash forward to February 2009, a month after Obama enters office. Holder revives talk of an assault weapons ban. Quote, he tells a reporter question, quote, well, as President Obama indicated during the campaign, there are just a few gun-related changes that we'd like to make, and among them would be to reinstitute the ban on the sale of assault weapons. I think that will have a positive impact in Mexico at a minimum, alluding to Fast and Furious scandal.
Yeah, after he ships guns into Mexico.
After making that statement in 2009, Rahm Emanuel, then Chief of Staff for Obama, tells Holder to STFU, that means shut up expletive, on guns.
By the way, he's the one that says they just want to put you on a list where you can't own guns, no judge, no jury, a no gun buy list. We have that video clip. Let's play just a short piece, just a long speech, where he says, this is Holder, that they're going to need to brainwash the public. Here it is.
And what we need to do is change the way in which people think about guns, especially young people. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
So there you go. The brainwashing continues. Now, I know you got a lot more, Aaron, but in the interest of time, go ahead and go through the rest.
Holder also told Congress in 2012 during Fast and Furious testimony in the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee a statement extremely similar to the one he made in 2009. This administration has consistently favored the reinstitution of the assault weapons ban. It is something that we think was useful in the past with regard to the reduction that we've seen in crime and certainly would have a positive impact on our relationship.
All right, let's stop right there because we're pretty much just repeating him, saying it over and over again. What we're seeing illustrated here is that so-called liberals are really authoritarians of another stripe, and they think they control reality. Because they always do this. They say what terms are, they say what meanings are, and they say, we're not going to try to take your guns. We're just reintroducing stuff to physically take them, not just ban their sale or manufacture. So they play these games hoping everyone's ignorant, and they try to just laugh at you with an appeal to everyone else's stupidity, hoping that you don't know. I mean, this is a classic military tactic to say we're not assaulting you or to attack, you know, like at Waco, the tanks ramming the building and they're saying this is not an assault. This is what's going on with these people. Great job, Aaron. Now let's move to our reporter, David Knight. And understand, this caller called today, and in about 30 minutes, we just grabbed up some of the documentation. I mean, there's all sorts of Handgun Control Incorporated on the floor, you know, saying we're going to total abolition of people's guns. I mean, we've seen what they do in countries and cities and states they control. David Knight, just looking at the UN treaty here tonight, and first off, any other points you'd like to make about what you've just heard?
Well, what Aaron was just talking about was
Infowars.com. That full report, that very special report, is going up at Infowars.com, YouTube, the Alex Jones channel, proof that Obama is coming for your guns. We must get that out. It's the Chicago-style gun control that created the murder capital of the world. The UN created black genocide. That's the real racism. We have to talk about this. We'll be back on the other side with the rest of that report. Get this report to everyone. Infowars.com.
David Knight, just looking at the UN treaty here tonight, and first off, any other points you'd like to make about what you've just heard?
Well, what Aaron was just talking about was internal laws on assault weapon bans and that sort of thing. What broke in the news today, and here's headlines at 6:40 a.m. this morning, November the 8th, no votes against finalizing global arms trade treaty at UN General Assembly. Basically, they've got the strongest, they were meeting starting on Tuesday, the day we had our election. The UN was meeting about gun control, and they just finalized it today, 2 days later. And they had a couple of abstentions, but they had the most support they've had for this yet. Now, they tried this back in July. On July 26th, they had a vote, and the vote didn't pass. And one of the reasons it didn't pass was because Fast and Furious was breaking at the time. And what they were telling everybody at the time was, don't worry, this isn't about your handguns. This is only about transfer of weapons between countries. But that's exactly what Fast and Furious was about. So that was something that was really kind of an embarrassment to the Obama administration. They really didn't want to get into this until after the election. And they were telling everybody at the time, you know, the word was out that they were going to revisit this immediately after the election. Well, here we are 2 days after the election, and they're right on top of it. And they're saying they're going to have the next meeting is going to be for the actual to finalize this is going to be in March. By that time, the Senate will be a little bit more Democrat, so they've got a better chance of getting this through. But the whole idea that this is just about transfer of weapons between countries is not really anything that's anybody's buying, because part of regulating this transfer is registration and tracking. That's going to be.
Well, it says to control international, we've got to control internal, and it says states have a right to have guns in the subsections that we list, but not individuals.
Right.
It says the state can curtail that, and I've put up on screen. Just type in map of world gun laws, and if you just type that into a search engine, you can see mainline news and government's breakdowns of this. And if you look at maps of this, almost the entire world is disarmed. Green is totally disarmed. Dark green almost totally. You know, purple, a few guns. But black is a lot of guns. Well, look at the United States. Okay, the United States is it, folks. Every government wants those guns. I mean, look at communist China, just like England now. I mean, this is incredible. Canada is pretty much partially disarmed. Look at South America. Look at Central America. Look at Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico, only civilians can purchase small caliber firearms, and they can only purchase them from the Defense Department. You know, what kind of gun violence do they have? I mean, compare that to Switzerland, where the government requires the citizens to have military weapons, right?
But I've been told that the Defense Department decides if they're going to let you have a gun.
Right.
So it's almost impossible.
Right, exactly. And they don't have any gun violence there, do they?
Continue with what the UN's doing, because here's the bottom line, folks. They're coming for the guns, and they're going to play this game and go, we're not coming for your guns. The TSA is not groping. Remember, the TSA will grope people and go in their pants and say, well, we don't call that groping. Or they'll strip search you and say, well, we don't call that strip searching. It's this mind game they play where they control reality.
And this is developing exactly like we saw with the NDAA, where, you know, Obama said he didn't want it, then he was going to do it, and, you know, don't worry, I'm not going to do that, you know. And you're seeing the same type of thing. When they get this passed, they're going to have the Senate is going to have to ratify this amendment. Once they ratify it, the UN will be able to change the details of how these things are implemented.
That's the key. So, tell people about that.
Yeah, that's the key. The key is that they need a supermajority of the...
And that's all we have time for. That report needs to go viral. It's going up at YouTube/the Alex Jones channel and Infowars.com. Proof Obama is coming for your guns. That's what gun control is really all about. Alex is back live Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central. Tune in to the Infowars Nightly News and get this word out to everyone. We have to warn the population before it's too late. Infowars.com. Stop the gun control. Get out this report. Make it go viral. Thank you. We will be back live Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m.